Hey there, this is Kross.
And I am the artist formerly known as Josh.
And we are Words and Whiskey, a podcast for veteran and novice readers alike. We tackle fiction novels and love to talk about what we're drinking. You should think of us as your intoxicating weekly book club.
And intoxicated, I'm trying to get because it was a long day at work and I'm tired and I have not finished this shot. This is going to be my third attempt to finish this one shot. I'm going to get there. I swear. I'm a big boy. I can do it.
We took our shots on the Patreon Devil's Cut this time around, which was a good amount of fun talking about some Critical Role stuff, which is excellent. And just the sheer amount of podcasts that I edited in the last 2 days.
Before you upgraded your computer.
Before I got the new computer, which also has a new camera on it. So it should be, upgraded from 720p to 1080. So we'll see if that matters at all. But it should a little bit.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I've really seen your face and I don't like it.
It's just been a gentle blur.
Oh.
Whoa. What's happening?
Jesus Christ. No.
You have
Put it
irises
back.
separate from your
724.
pupils?
Yeah, no.
240C, 240.
Please. Just RCA, please.
Anything but this. And today is our third episode talking about The Empire of Silence by Christopher Ruocchio. This week we're reading Resurrection and Death through Stand Clear. I want to make that clear. We actually said Near Humanity last week, and I actually, in my plan, somehow entirely skipped Stand Clear. So because it's a short chapter, I just put it on the end of this week. So if you haven't read it, it's 7 minutes, it's 2 pages, you'll be fine.
A really good chapter, and I would have been so mad if I read that for the first one next time, based on how it ends and based on what I've been talking about this whole time.
Well, and I think that was my plan originally, was to end there, and I think I just I was just going through real quickly in my little flip pages, and I didn't mark it quite properly. So
fair enough. There
was this whole thing of read through versus read to that I was dealing with for a while, from a notation standpoint, and that's a part of the issue. So there's one other thing. Oh, in addition, obviously, since we're a video podcast at this point, I wanted to make mention at the very top of this episode, we have a Patreon. You can support us, patreon.com/words and whiskey. At the very end of each episode, we shout out new patrons. And then in addition, we will have credits rolling with everyone's name in them. I can't believe I didn't think about that as just a general thing that will happen. You get your name on the website. It's permanently emblazoned there on the episodes, permanently on YouTube and everything else like that going forward. So just want to throw that out there as an extra little perk for supporting us.
And if you sign up for Patreon, you can actually watch this with my face unblurred. We're blurring it, right? For all the
we're blurring it. That's what we're doing. Yeah, a little Gaussian touch up and Ken Burnsing effect all over the place, by the way, as well. Just constantly just moving in a little square.
Can we just do one episode that just has way too many effects? Just really dump the whole budget.
Just everything.
One episode. Throw it all in there.
Sounds like a good plan. With all that out of the way, though, Josh, vibes from this week's reading.
Yeah, I don't. This almost feels like a weird section to say this on, but I feel like this was the first section where I was like, I was just in it, and then it ended the section, and I was like, oh god, I have to I was like, there wasn't any piecing it together, trying to follow. There was this is the most I've enjoyed a section yet, I think, which is weird considering it's a very upsetting section, as I assume they all are at this point.
Josh is like, fuck, I was drawing comparisons to Farseer earlier, and I didn't realize that Robin Hobb and Christopher Ruocchio torture their main characters.
Just absolute torture. No, yeah. But I don't know. There's something, as somebody who my favorite Disney movie growing up, my two favorite Disney movies growing up were Aladdin and Lion King, which is not rare, doesn't make me special. They're the best ones. They're everybody's favorite. But this section has if Hadrian is Simba, we get our Timon and Pumbaa moment. If also we get our street urchin stealing, gotta steal to eat, gotta eat to live, otherwise we get along, Hadrian. And I this is the first time I've liked Hadrian, I think, is what it is, more than anything. The writing has been good, the world building has been good. This is the first section I enjoy Hadrian.
Yeah, there's a difference between a character being compelling and you liking a character. Hadrian up until this point, I would say, is a very compelling character. And late Hadrian is very interesting, and I'm interested in later Hadrian. But present Hadrian has been so ignorant that it's kind of hard to get into it.
Exactly. It's nice to see him have to actually learn how the world works a little. But yeah, overall, this section, I'm just gonna say I think it rips. I'm really enjoying it. The way how it ends, I'm like, all right, we're moving into another section that I think is gonna be a lot more like really like, oh yeah, whoa, cool, yeah. But just starting off here where it's like lost, nowhere to go, no choices. Uh right, well, like we come into resurrection and death, and we're on a mesh, we're in a new world. We have no money, we don't have shoes. He really wants shoes. We're looking for the spaceports, ship's not there, no information, no money, no nothing. Can't go get a job because blood testing. Like it's really interesting to see us start in a spot that's like so hopelessly dour, but then actually have like a pretty, I don't know, it's weird to say for this, but to me, like fun couple of chapters to read whenever it's about how bad things are. So I don't know. That's my vibe check.
Yeah, there's something compelling about the orphan angle always. You know what I mean? Like the loner always. In this context, you know, like poor, broke, without means in some context. But I think that one of the things, and we'll talk more about this in just a moment, you mentioned this already, but like one of the things that I really enjoy is that like this is a man of means, but means also means completely sacrificing the opportunity that he potentially has at doing what he actually wants to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof. Also, I'm gonna need your help on some stuff here, because you're smart and stuff. There's a lot of mentions in this section. I think even in this first one, where like I see in your notes you're talking about Siddhartha, and I'm like, I know that's, I think, in like an Indian parable novel type thing.
We'll talk about it. I didn't fully flesh that out. So, I didn't fully flesh that out because I didn't know how much you knew.
Yeah, I'm gonna say educate me. Let's hear about it. I don't even know much about Arthurian legend, which is crazy for somebody who loves fantasy.
That is kind of crazy to me.
I mean, I know the basics that like
interesting.
You would just know from pop culture, but I've always had a weird like rejection to anything to do with like the Knights of the Round Table or King Arthur or anything like that, and I don't know what it stems from.
Huh.
It's just,
did you watch
always
The Green
something.
Knight?
I did, and I didn't like it very much, but the end was really good.
Interesting. I love The Green Knight, but that could also be because I really enjoy Arthurian legend.
Yeah, and also not liking The Green Knight very much had more to do with a very classic issue that happens with a lot of A24 movies, where the trailer tells you it's a certain type of movie and then it's not.
That's why I don't fucking watch trailers, buddy.
I know, but like, how else would I know the movie existed?
Well, you keep track, in my opinion, just to put this out there, my opinion, you just keep track of the directors and writers that you like, and then you follow their projects.
Right.
So, like, I've seen other things that David Lowery did that I really enjoyed, and so I was like, okay,
right,
I'll see the next David Lowery movie, you know?
Well, what I'll say is that it was definitely presented as very, like, gothic psychological horror in a fantasy Arthurian setting, and then instead it was not. It just had like two kind of weird dream sequences, and then the rest of it was like a pretty good movie. But
yeah, I mean, it's very psychedelic. We can totally get into that on a separate episode.
Okay,
I'd love to chat about it at some point, because I not in my top 25, but like I really love that movie. Cool. All right. Well, with that, I think we can kick it off, and we'll talk about some of this stuff right now. We'll start off with Resurrection in Death, which is such an ominous title for something that I almost don't know that fully matches sort of the tone here. I mean, it kind of is in a lot of ways, like this death that he suffered and a resurrection as such, you know, being unable to kind of find himself and where he came from. So now he's got a new opportunity here that he finds himself in. But we start off this week with a number of comparisons between Delos and Amesh and some description of the city we find ourselves in for the rest of the week. Borasivo, population of 5 million, no longer the Silver Sun, but that red one. Simple comparisons that Ruocchio draws here are excellent. The gravity difference, the sun's in the sky, even calling back to Mars is a better example of the lack of tectonic activity, which is such like a granular detail to have that it's nice and crunchy. A bunch of simple details to remind us that we're caught in a very different sort of world.
Yeah, I want to talk about the sun comparison a little bit.
The sun,
I thought it was really interesting where he's like, this sun is red and angry and the heat's crazy. On my world, it's a pinprick, and then like here it's the size of my fist when I hold it up. Dude would have hated Southern California. I don't even think Amesh is that hot. Like based on how he's describing it, I'm like, a red sun means it's actually not burning quite as hot, right? Like that's a less than like a bright yellow sun, right?
Um.
That's a duller heat, I'm pretty sure, but I could be wrong here.
Okay, so it's more expansive. A red dwarf is a larger sun on the whole, but I think it's a proximity thing more than anything else. I think that it's the
and
distance.
If it's the size
sun.
of his fist, that's like, I feel like our sun's bigger than that in proximity, you know. And so, like, I don't know. That didn't. Whenever he said that, I was like, I don't know how big that sun actually is.
My take personally, Josh, to your point, is that I almost think that it's closer to our sun, period. Like, I think that this is just closer to our sun on average.
He's here and he's
a little bit. Yeah,
this is wrong. And I'm like, you're probably experiencing closer to Earth than wherever you were from. In a lot of ways, he's like, the gravity's bad and the sun's hot, and like, you should not go to Venice Beach, you know. Like, the gravity there is bad. I don't know what changes, but everything just is heavy and gross.
It is. But yeah, I great point. I do think, you know, almost like he uses the comparison to Mars, and like maybe it is an Earth's distance to our sun. Maybe it's more like Mars' distance to our sun. But with, you know, an atmosphere and other things like that obviously insulate it. So tough to say.
Is Mars? Does Mars have no tectonic activity? Is that
correct?
A thing?
Yeah,
I did not know that.
Yeah,
crazy.
Not many planets do have tectonic activity. A lot of our tectonic activity is due not only to the core of our planet and sort of the shifting there, but also the amount of water that we have on the planet actually is like a big part of what causes our tectonic activity. So I've been doing a lot of geological study for writing and trying to form a world. And that was one of the things. And I was like, recently I've been kind of digging into this in some archaeology. And I was like, oh, this is such a better detail now that I didn't know and didn't catch in, you know, my previous read through. I was like, fuck, that's so sick.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, wow, I learned something. I feel like through this book, I'm going to learn a lot about, basic, space? Like, not even space, just like books I should have known about that are older than like 1920 and how just general basic science works. And I'm really excited to finally get my 6th grade education that I kind of skipped out on. So
super fair. Really nice. Hey man, we're here for that.
I'm smart at some stuff, I swear.
Smart and good.
Smart and good. Well, I'm smart at some stuff. I'm good at some stuff. Usually it's not the same stuff.
Super fair. Hadrian, though, is not faring well in this environment, kind of like we were saying, and tries to track down the Ur Seer to no avail at the first starport, but like really can't give it up. Older Hadrian explains to us how he has, as too many things happen randomly to him, to concern himself with the details to that blacker sea. Like he just kind of thinks about space and everything else, and it's like, man, like anything is possible. There was no way for us to know, and like I at this point have just accepted that I'll never know.
Right. And I think in this section, right, he's like listing off like it's hard to remember exactly where things happen, but there's like, was it extrasolarians that scooped up like by Cielson, like they were fishing. Did they dump him and take his money and leave? I don't know. I think it's interesting that we just kind of don't get an answer. Maybe one day we do, but like yeah.
I feel like the assumption is, and I don't mean to cut you off and say no, I feel like the assumption is because later Hadrian is saying that answer's not important. I don't know that we ever will or that we ever could. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, how much do we trust Hadrian in that way of like, is he trying to say it's not important in this moment, or is he saying in the long run it's not important?
Which and to me that's fine and all well and good, except I really like Demetrius.
Yeah, right. Dimitri. Yeah.
Dimitri. And
you don't even remember his name.
You can't give me Saltus and not like let me hang out more with Saltus, you know?
Yeah. That's fair. I do want to bring up there's a description here that's lovely. I lowered myself onto a low concrete wall in the shade of a leafy palm tree, listening to the steady thunder of a distant fusion rocket as it burned its torch for heaven. And like what a simple, evocative
it's
metaphor.
It feels like that imagery definitely looks like I could picture the like pixel art for like a lo-fi beats um, album that's just a dude with pants and no shoes chilling by a palm tree with like a rocket, like a spaceship rocketing off in the distance behind him with like a concrete jungle surrounding him. I don't know. It's cool.
I hadn't considered the image that way. I thought I imagined it like not only real time, but then I was like, oh, it reminds me of the like scene from Gattaca when he's looking at the rockets taking off. But then also I was like, oh, I saw it in like stained glass. But I love the lo-fi beats thing. That's actually way more accurate. So yeah, good work.
That's all. I picture him like chilling, leaning against a palm tree, and in the distance there's all the rocket ships, and it's
This also brings us to his first internal mentioning of Siddhartha, or Sid Arthur, as it is, which is an interesting sort of amalgam of Siddhartha and Arthur. So, understanding that you know nothing about this, I'm not going to talk about it until we get to it in the next section, because I think in those mindless days, there's a lot more to go off of to kind of build off of it and talk about it a little bit more. But this is sort of the first mentioning, and we get a lot more mentions and repeat mentions throughout the rest of this week.
All right. Yeah. Well, I'm excited to learn,
Yeah. How'd you feel about, because you've heard of Siddhartha at the very least before.
I'm aware that it is kind of like it's an Indian folktale novel kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's about what I know about it. I think it has to do with like morality and power, maybe.
yeah, like surrendering power, and like it's really sort of an emblematic book talking about like Buddhism in a very core way of like following the path of the Buddha, surrendering like earthly possessions, and then like the like one of the most important things, I think, or more centrally, and we'll talk about this more in a bit here, but the idea of there being to simplify this for people, don't come at me. Effectively, there always being like another side to an argument and being able to take in both sides of an argument to understand that like there are multiple perspectives on everything, which is sort of the central lane by which Buddhism says like that's how you attain a central peace.
Gotcha.
And sort of like a big part of it is understanding that like it is the journey, not the destination as well. Like it's very much something that's borrowed from very amply a lot of places. And then obviously Arthur, and some of those details have been mixed and mingled over the course of this society once again, right?
See, I'm gonna it's all gonna go. I'm glad we're doing this. Otherwise it would have gone over my head. Someone would have mentioned Siddhartha and I would have been like, oh, this. And then like, no, that's Arthurian legend. And I would have been like, what do you mean?
Yeah. It's very fun and funny and interesting, and there are more things that we'll talk about there, but that's like a good basis to work off of at the very least. So he does eventually find people who threw him from wherever he was left, and finds his ring on one of their hands. This leads to a fist fight with those two workers, where he breaks the one who has the ring's arm and steals it from him. After a moment with the supervisor and a prefect, we find that the ship itself was abandoned, stripped for parts, and that they likely escaped on some other jets. And so Hadrian just has to move on one way or another.
Yeah. And I think like here we get that like the ship was abandoned when it was found. They like took like essentially escape pods out. Right. So like, we don't know what happened, but it doesn't seem like they like that's not how I would rob someone for their money and then abandon my ship. That's my entire livelihood. So like whatever happened wasn't good. Was it pirates? Was it Cielson? I don't know. But I think that's it made me feel a little better that they didn't just take his bank card and run, because at least I assume so. It doesn't make sense to abandon your entire ship for a bank card. That's probably not worth the amount of that ship. So like something happened and he just wasn't worth saving, which is still sad, but like not explicitly betrayed, maybe.
Yeah, it feels to me like there was enough like animosity on the ship before this that it was likely that there was some kind of mutiny-ish kind of thing, or they like settled to like split it in some facet, and like some ditched, like maybe someone ran away with the card and then he went, well, like now when he wakes up, like there's no way to pay him back. Even if like I get the 9,000, he's losing 20,000 or whatever was on the card or something like that. Yeah. So That's what I tend to believe at the very least, but I don't know, man.
I like to believe that I think Saltus got the card. And
Saltus
like
and the
living
doctor
well
probably
somewhere.
got the card. Yeah.
Yeah, Saltus and the doctor are chilling. And then Dimitri and what's his wife's name?
Basim, I forget his wife's name. I don't remember.
They're gonna be fine. They're very pretty. So
they're chatting.
Yeah, they'll spring back. You know, the kids stayed on the ship, I think. So the twins, get them out of here. I don't like kids. It's fine. But yeah, I like the moment in this scene where he mentions it. For a moment, I was back in that alleyway on Maidwa, you know, like whenever he gets punched. And then he's like, but I'm ready for it this time. And I like the mention of like, I could have made easy work of these guys if I wasn't starving, you know, coming out of basically being frozen.
Muscle fatigued. Yeah,
starving, muscle fatigued, higher gravity. I'm not used to the air. Like, and even still, he manages to do pretty well. So it's cool to see him kind of coming into his own here. And then learns that the ship is stripped for parts, gets his ring back, doesn't get anything else back, no letter, no shoes, but gets his ring, and then he can't do anything with it. It doesn't help him, you know, like the second he uses that ring, he's more fucked than he is here with nothing. And so he just kind of moves on. You know, and then we jump so far ahead, like he's like, I spent years there, and you're like, oh my god, okay. Like, we don't just jump the years, but like right in that moment, he says like, hey, and by the way, I was homeless here for like some years.
Yeah.
Which was not something I was expecting to just be like dropped there. Like, and then, you know, years. I was expecting weeks, months, maybe, but like, no, we did this for a while. And most of my 20s, I was homeless on a mesh, you know? Which, look, we were all homeless on a mesh at one point or another in our lives, but it's just weird to know that he went through the same thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I remember Borisivo well in the streets. Those gutters, especially when it rained, man, you could fall down and drown.
Oh, you know? Yeah. No, you do not want to fall asleep too low. You will end up in the mud. Back to the mud, as they say, even.
Back to the mud. I do love, I love that you brought up the part where he's like kind of running down all the excuses as to why he could or cannot take them in the moment, or like, you know, could have taken them more easily. And then there's like that final line of that, which is, if perhaps the two men hadn't each been behemoths corded in sheets of muscle from a lifetime of hard labor in this gravity, perhaps. And it's like, I kind of find that funny. Yeah,
through both of my read-throughs on this, because I'll do it twice because you make me wait. I could not figure out if these dudes were homunculi or not. Like, because he's describing them like homunculi, and then he's like, gross humans. And I'm like, what do you think a human looks like? What do you look like? You know, like,
right.
These plebeians with their knuckles that drag on the ground and the fur all the way up to their eyeballs. Like, how much are you exaggerating, and how much are you just wrong about what real humans look like? Like,
yeah.
Where are we here?
Where is the line, man?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm pretty hairy, but it stops at my cheeks at least, you know. So.
I'm probably more similar to Hadrian. I have like no body hair whatsoever.
You have no idea how humanity works.
Yeah, right. Me neither, right? That's the whole thing. I've got my little ring here that says sure. It's the same. Hadrian and I, we're the same.
Yep. Both of your dads will kill you if they ever find you.
That's true. That's why my parents are out of the country right now.
Got it. Yeah, I feel like I have a lot more in common with Saltus than Hadrian. I'm hairy. I'm little. I'm a little upsetting.
A little red.
I'll convince rich people that we're the same, and it makes them really mad.
Absolutely. All right. With that, we can move into those mindless days. There are a number of like pretty short chapters here, so it's one of those things where it's like, what do I dig into? And in this one, I think in particular, we kind of dig into a little bit of the sort of history again here with Siddhartha and it's got a similar beat to the story of Siddhartha as well, but doesn't quite match as far as it's described on the page, which is interesting. So like he talks a little bit about the tree. He talks a little bit about some of these other sort of details renouncing his father's throne. Well, it's not a throne in the same sort of way as like that suggests. So this is like that blending again of like the Arthurian legend into, you know, the story of Siddhartha.
I don't have a lot I can add.
No, right. But also like the sage tree Merlin, right? Like the, you know, like
yeah,
but the tree in the Siddhartha story obviously isn't named Merlin. Like that's a clear, like, you know, Arthurian blend.
Yeah. The classic old stone that held the sword named Gandalf, you know.
When the real Arthurian legend, in most tellings, it wasn't in a stone. It was given out by a lady in a lake, and so like they distributed it that way as opposed to the stone.
Which is why pre-campaign, but it made it in the comic books, Grog had to have sex with a water spirit to get a cool axe, I think. But it's fine.
Correct? I guess.
Back to Critical Role.
Yeah.
I like how I would just assume someone was like, yeah, man, that water witch was a stone cold fox, and someone just was like half listening. Like, so he gets it out of a stone? Sure, okay.
Yeah, stone cold. Got it. Okay, sword in stone. Some guy can pull it out. The one guy that can. Okay, good. Sounds good. Kind of one of those fun parts of the mythology, right? Where like it has been twisted and interpreted so many times, which again feels like the same sort of interpretation or interpolation that we're getting here over time in language drift. And like, it's been how many thousands of years? We don't know, you know, technically at this point. But we know it's been a fucking while. Enough for machines to have risen up, enough for like them to be put down. You know.
Which does bring me to a question that can really go anywhere at this point. Americanii, that it just feels too phonetically similar but distorted to American. I don't know. I'm wondering as we go in.
You're circling that drain.
Yeah. Starting to, I'm like, oh, did the Americans make AI and then fuck the world? And now we call them American AI.
Yeah.
American AI, the Americanii. You know?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Hadn't considered that spin. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. That's just a thought that keeps popping up every time they say Americanii. I'm like,
yeah.
America is in there.
America. Can you imagine like somebody going through the effort of like naming, you know, like all of their different continents and all their different cultures, all these very interesting and unique things, and then being like, ah, yes, the ancient species from Earth that fucked everything up, the Americans.
The Americans.
AI. Yeah. America.
Well, I'm just saying, if it's Sid Arthur, why can't it be American AI?
Oh man. I love a lot of the details here. It also sets the stage for what we come to know a little bit later, which is the rot, which hits, you know, basically at the end of this week, saying that the sickness had kind of been going through the cities and the chantry and sort of everything there. They're not exactly sure. Blackened skin, wasted the flesh. Leads to kind of an interesting point much later, obviously, when it becomes more relevant. But the chantry is also responsible for managing things like that, like disease and management, which feels weird for a religious organization, don't it?
I mean, kind of.
I mean, I guess it is very Catholic Church in a way, but
yeah, exactly. I was like, it feels like exactly right for a religious organization, technically. No, it is a bit weird. But like the chantry, I'm so excited to learn more about it because I don't know much. But is this the chapter where we get I think it's later that we get the weird like preacher man that's naked.
Way later. Yeah.
Way later. Okay. Yeah.
Forsaken.
I will have more to say on these weird religious people and their ties to American AI. Whenever we get there, I think so.
Fair enough. I love, there's another quote just within the section painting this picture pretty plainly. Just as there is a difference between the news of a distant planet's destruction and the bloody death of a Colosseum slave, it is one thing to know there is poverty and illness, and another to walk among the poor and suffering, which just paints the picture of Hadrian becoming more like a normal person.
Hadrian finally actually experiencing the lives that he was just kind of oblivious to, that crunched under his feet as he walked before.
Well, and he was aware, like he was cognizant.
Yeah.
He was like, oh God, it would kind of suck, wouldn't it? And it was like, that was the extent of his thought, you know?
Which I also thought this quote was interesting, where based on what we know at this point in the book that comes later. So like, this is him. So he has mentioned how like the death of a distant planet, and the bloody death of a Colosseum slave, those are two things that he's witnessed distantly as an observer, uninvolved. As well as poverty. Now he is walking in poverty. Based on how this ends, in my prediction, I'm pretty sure we're going to get to see him see the death of a Colosseum slave a lot more realistically up close and not distant and disconnected. And based on how this series opens, we know that he will experience up close and personal the death of a planet or a star, a system of planets even, you know, like... So it's kind of wild. Well, if you take it from the end of the sentence and walk it backwards, we know that each of these things he will experience in a non abstract way.
Yeah.
Throughout his life. So like it I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. We're like, we know much later in his life he will witness the death of a planet in a non-abstract way. And more. At some point later than this, I assume he will experience the bloody death of a Colosseum slave, possibly at his own hands or right next to him, or he is essentially within the death of the situation. And then now he's experiencing the poverty. These are just those three listed things that he hadn't experienced up to this point. And this is the first one he is.
Right. Yeah, I totally with you there. I think that it is very interesting, especially given like there's almost a circular logic here, because he's telling the story using analogies, using his own analogies, and then also like applying them to himself. And I think that this week, more than the last couple, has had these like more starker divides that way, where like there are chapters that are clearly like mostly present Hadrian, and there are chapters which are clearly old Hadrian. And this week has a more defined line, I would say, than prior weeks.
Yeah, I would say that line jumps out in some moments for sure. And I did mention it, where like this writing style always takes me a little bit to settle into. Like once I get into it, I enjoy it. But like, because there is that jump that's blurred in a weird way. Like if it was more distinct, that would be fine. I think that we're getting a little bit more distinct, so it's better. But where it's like, are you writing this, or is this like, when are we jumping down and everything comes into view and now we're not like in media res, you know? But yeah, I think that this distinction here is where like you're really starting to feel it's starting to become more of its own story, and less of like, it's always going to be Hadrian's retelling, but it's less of like, let me set the scene of my story. And now we're just kind of actually telling that story in a lot of ways with the occasional jump out. But in those first two sections, it felt like it was the occasional jump in, and now it's the occasional jump out. And I think that that's helping me stay within the story more at this point.
The framing device has become more of a framing device and less of the constant refrain.
Exactly. Yeah. So
totally. That said, we've kind of discussed this, but Hadrian is left poor, broken, a beggar for the first time in his life, free of the life that he had before in every way imaginable, which he both does not love, but also is kind of excited for simultaneously. Like there's an interesting reluctance here.
Yeah, and there's I think it's right at the end of this chapter. I could be wrong. There's this mention that's like, and then I stole and found out I was really good at it. And there's this like glee to poverty that he almost has. Like, yeah, he hates it. It sucks. But he's enjoying the freedom of it. Like he mentions multiple times, like how he feels free, how there's joy in it, how he's good at what he's doing. And I think like, I don't know, he's remembering it very miserable because he's homeless.
But he's also remembering it fondly.
Yeah, this is the least depressed I've read Hadrian this entire time.
Even though
which
it's
is
so
saying
depressing.
something.
Yeah.
It's
to the point of
so
what you said.
depressing.
Yeah.
Everything up to this point, I'm like, this guy hates everything about what's going on in his life. And then right now, I'm like, this guy's uncomfortable, but he's having a good time.
Absolutely. Cool. All right. I think with that, we can move on to poverty and punishment. I love the start of this chapter. It's another kind of shorter one as far as what I have to say about it. But as we feel Hadrian sort of disentangled from time and space, gravity isn't the same. He's feeling it more. The day of High Litany rotates on this because there isn't a standard calendar day because of Amesh's day-night cycle isn't anywhere close to the galactic standard. We also sort of, this is a little bit later, and we discussed this, I think last night randomly while we were doing some planning, but like there's an age difference between him and Kat. And there is like a question of like, okay, well now this introduces the question of like, are these standard years or is like, what's our deal here as a difference between as well?
Yeah, I'll just believe that he's switching back and forth whenever he's talking about standard years for age and how long he's been there. He's using their years or something. I don't know. It helps me feel better because otherwise it does get weird. But
yeah, I think we can talk more about that more immediately in Cat because I do think I have some thoughts. But I agree with you for sure.
Yeah.
But he's like disentangled from time and space in a weird way, right? Like,
yeah, this is one of those moments where we've gotten multiple depression montages so far in this book. And this is why I say this is the least depressed he's been, because this montage is just a struggle montage, not a depression montage. He's in survival mode. He's not having a good time. He's barely scraping by. He's sleeping in gutters and maybe drowning in some mud sometimes. But also, it's
he's doing his best Aladdin impression, you know?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And he just needs an Abu. And we get that next chapter.
Cat Abu.
I feel like she'd look great in a fez, you know?
Okay. Got it.
No, she's not a Jasmine. I'll tell you that much.
That's true.
She might be an Iago, I guess. There's not really any.
I like the Abu comparison for multiple reasons, including the kissing bit later.
Oh, Aladdin and Abu for sure kissed.
I made out, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like it's never been serious, but like you're on the streets, you know. I like the idea that. I mean, I think I've mentioned this before on this podcast, but I work at a pediatrics office, like in the front office, and there's just like children's movies playing constantly. So it's like my brain has been altered by the constant barrage of Disney songs hours on end every day for a year. It's like explicitly stated in Aladdin that like all the prostitutes are like, hey, Aladdin, if you want it, it's free. And I still think he chose to kiss Abu instead. That's all I'm saying.
He's like, I'd rather practice with Abu.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the line in the song that goes, "Still, I think he's rather tasty," haunts my dreams. It's just always there.
Well, that is horrifying. You know, I'm glad that I have some of those memories in the past.
Yeah, you should bring it back. Throw in Aladdin tonight. And just
I'd be down watching it once. I couldn't imagine watching it a dozen times. You know,
it's also like all of us there have like our like go-to favorites, and one of my coworkers always puts on Aladdin. I always put on Lion King. I subject children to Mufasa's death 3 times a day, daily, if I'm choosing the movies.
I'm a Hunchback in Notre Dame guy. I'd fully give it to him. Full send.
If we had
send
Hunchback, I'd be playing it a lot more. Yeah. No, I'll for sure like throw on some Hercules just to see if parents get mad about like them like gospel singers singing about Zeus's gospel truth. I have had a parent get mad about it, but you know, here we are. Back to the story.
Yeah. I did want to say I appreciate this little segue, but I do love that we do kind of get this Aladdin tone, which is why we brought it up to begin with.
Exactly.
There's this line, how is it you can always tell when a word is directed at you?
I really love that line. And that's one of the times when we break back out into that like you just said it, framing device.
Yeah, framing device. Yep. Do you want me to say the other word? Procrastinastices?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If or if you could just give me another word I don't know, just right now, just pick one. What's a word you think I don't know? It's gonna be easy. I don't know most words. I'll go ahead and talk while you look something up here.
You do that real quick. Sorry, I'm just gonna.
How is it you can always tell when a word is directed at you? That you, for sure, I've definitely turned around to things I shouldn't have turned around for, because you can just tell. And I did really like that like moment of breaking out of the framing device, like that's every now and then within the framing device. I feel like it clicks in a way where sometimes it is just like, I'm writing this story, telling you about it, but sometimes it legitimately feels. How do I put this? It's better in moments of legitimately feeling like the person writing it is like surprised of their own like realization in the moment. And I really like that with this framing device. It's one thing to just be like, I'm gonna write this story. It's another thing to like remember that the character writing the story is writing it in real time, the way how the story is being read, and can also they themselves come to conclusions or changes. They don't already have to have all the answers. They're like, that's its own ongoing story in a way, the person writing it. And this is one of those moments where it feels like Hadrian's writing it and goes like, man, thinking back, how did I know? You just always know when someone's taught like a word's directed at you. That's crazy. Like it feels like Hadrian in the moment isn't just recollecting, but is experiencing new thought. And I enjoy that. I enjoy that. It's
like a discovery. Device. You know what I mean? Like it's both
exactly.
And it interacts more directly with the story as well, where it's like, how do you always know that? You know, he gets a stunner bolt because of it, so we kind of learn that effect, which plays out a couple of times over the course of the week. Swings this cooler that he has, loses a lot of things. We also hear like a pretty bad like pejorative hurled at him, it seems, with neg, which and leaves him on the street there with no one else to like help him because they think that he's like not even worth booking.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of the random words that get thrown at him, I was listening, so I want to read here. Messa?
Mm-hmm.
What is this word that keeps being thrown around?
Well, it's like messer.
Yeah, I was like, is that like okay, cool. It's like sir, right?
Yeah,
like Mr.
Yeah.
Okay. On the audiobook for the first listen, I thought they were calling him a messer, and that was like a slur. Like, oh, you can't be here, you messer. You know? And then I realized on the second listen through that that's not necessarily what's going on.
It's just a polite enough way of addressing, you know?
Yeah, I do like it. Like, hi, messer, but
well, it's like Mrs., right? Comes from sort of the same tree, but
yeah. Well, it to me, it just does seem like a very kind of detracted down multiple different pathways, Mister.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Hi, Mister. Hi, messer. You know, Messa.
Right. My word is coalescent.
Coalescent. Let's see if I can figure it out. Collide.
I've got two.
Coalition. So things that coming together.
It is in fact something that is massing. So I'll give you that.
Fluorescent. It's two fluorescent lights that you smash together.
No, you were right
everywhere.
With the first half.
Everyone gets mad
it's a different.
And they said, "Why did you smash all the fluorescent lights together?"
It's literally just
and
a different
then you're
form
not
of
invited
coalesce.
back to the Christmas party next year at your work because you keep smashing fluorescent lights. Did I nail it?
That's it. Yes, exactly. Okay, precisely. Cool. Great work.
Cool,
resplendent.
That is a word I've definitely heard a lot. It sounds real positive. Resplendent, I feel is something that is very, very good. That's all I got.
So resplendent is generally used as sort of like the thing that defines beauty. So like something is resplendent, meaning it is like the origination point of beautiful. So like this is a big part of actually The Abolition of Man by C.S. Lewis, which is why I brought it up, because I thought it was a fun like little side tangent there. But
so like if I think I'm like cute but not necessarily stunning, I'm more just splendent, or
you're splendid, maybe.
Not resplendent, but like splendid.
But like Brad Pitt is resplendent. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Yeah,
but like like,
or Keira Knightley. And now we're done.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
We should move on for
we
sure.
got canceled. No, I'm just kidding.
Brad Pitt and Keira Knightley are your types. Good to know. Good to know.
No, I just they were first in mind. I guess that's
the
not
ones
types.
that are always on your mind. Yep.
That's it. It wasn't. There was a Keira Knightley. Keira Knightley was in like an ad or something like that recently that I got served right before.
I just rewatched Pirates. So I'm there. I'm ready.
That's fair. That's fair. But it was literally in an ad, and I was like, Keira Knightley's doing advertisements. Oh no, what have we come to?
Well, she's not doing Pirates.
That's true. Very true. With that, we can move on to Cat. So rain falls and the storm is crazy, and Hadrian is doing his best looking over the city as lightning flashes and thunder rumbles windows. He looks up and sees the palace ziggurat still standing, compares this to all the storms on Delos, and he's left fixated for the reason of his travel again, seeing the universe, the 99 wonders of the universe that he wants to see. But he comes to terms with the fact that his need for adventure, his desire for adventure right now is killing him. Like, he is in the throes of like, this is really bad and I'm at a bad spot.
Yeah, no. The beginning of Cat definitely is the end of the Fun Aladdin montage. But it's interesting to watch him kind of giving up on his dreams here, because I'm over 30. I've had to do it. You know?
As a 31-year-old, I have also surrendered my dreams.
Yeah, we're both 31. We've both are about like 1 year out
a couple
of giving up
apart.
on our dreams. Yeah. I always forget that. I don't know why. I feel like I always assume you're like a year younger than me.
No, it's like just a month and a half.
You maintain youthful energy. I think
it's the fact that I can't grow facial hair.
I was gonna say we store a lot of. It takes a lot of years off of life to grow beard. And so every time this grows back out, I lose like another couple days. So I'm basically 72 and you're like still 31. So yeah.
The average age of the podcast did increase with you here though by about 6 months, because PJ is an August baby of the same year. So
again, wild to me that PJ's not 10 years older than me.
Right? God. The fact that I'm older than PJ messes me up all the time.
Like, PJ
like
walks in the room, I'm like,
sage.
guys, shut up, an adult's here. You know?
Right. Well, it's because you have to look up, you know?
Well, yeah, that's true. That's probably a big part of it.
I also do, to be clear.
It really makes me feel like I'm in junior high again. Well, that's not true. Junior high and now have no height difference for me. I've been this height since I was 12 years old.
Speaking about heights, Cat rescues Hadrian from his like broken mental wandering voice, that we find this other voice being like, hey, and helps him out of the street. And he obviously, he's obviously an off-worlder to her. They exchange names. She's immediately such a warm personality to grab onto. One of the few, I would say, in this so far in the story that are really compelling and like a nice person. We've had a lot of like very weird characters up until this point.
No, you need just a scrappy street girl with crooked teeth sometimes in your story. And I really like Kat. Like, all kind of quips aside, she showed up in the story, and I feel like she brings a light with her to the story that like was desperately needed by this point. She's maybe the first character at all in the story to interact with Hadrian in a way where it's not for like some sort of ulterior motive, some sort of like stationary situation, anything to do with who he is, the politics around his life. We just get to actually interact for the very first time in the story, I'm pretty sure, with a nice person.
Yeah, there's no like cast considerations here. Like, obviously there's a difference as they kind of come to understand those things, but like that's not what guides their frankly relationship.
Well, and I mean, like, even I think maybe the nicest person to Hadrian yet in this entire story pre-Cat is his mom.
Also true.
Or Gibson, right? But like Gibson and his mom both still have their own reasons for what they're doing outside of just wanting to help Hadrian. Like, maybe Gibson is the closest, but even Gibson has like years of history in politics within this and a reason to want to protect him from the Chantry that maybe stems as much from not wanting him to go to the Chantry as much as protecting him. This doesn't like lessen their reasons for doing these things. But his mom has this history with his dad where she wants to like prove her power back over him as much as she wants to protect her child. This is someone with zero history, zero strings, zero background, who just chooses to help him. And I like, to me, that in this moment was really cool because Kat comes out. She's like, "Why are you sleeping in the street? I got a good spot up here." Helps him up. It's like, "Oh man, you look rough." He's like, "Yeah, I tried to rob some people." And then he talks about that. And there's some like mild world building there that we never really get back to. Maybe we will later, but we'll talk about that in a sec. And then he's like, "I need medicine. Do you have any?" She's like, "Nah." And then he passes out. And then when he wakes up, she's like, "Found you medicine." Like that, she had no reason to do that. Even just getting him up there and giving him her good spot to not drown. That's more kindness for no reason than he's been shown maybe ever in his life. To have her go off and find medicine to bring it back to him and be like, "Do any of these work?" Like I felt something. There was like an actual warm fuzzy feeling, and this, like, I think that's why I say that this is like the most joyous section yet that we've read, even though it's really depressing, because he experiences something he calls that other face of humanity later for the first time. That face of mercy, that face of somebody just wanting to help you because it's right, because we're in this together, because we're both human. And I think it's interesting that of all of the plebeians he sees, he describes Kat's genetic defects, quote with the crooked teeth, or like her skin being more worn, or this or that, but he never diminishes her humanity the way that he does pretty much every other plebeian he interacts with. I think this is his first time seeing that, like, this is what makes you human, not your biological coding or the size of your pores or anything else. She shows him that true face of humanity he mentions later here in this moment. And this is, as I was talking about my standout chapters last time, Kat's introduction is really big for me. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Kat is personally one of the standouts for me, not just the chapter, but Kat as a character is one of the standouts for me in this entire book. That's not to say that there aren't a ton of excellent characters that come later, but I love this like a little mini arc that we get with Hadrian on the streets. In my head, and again, people at home, I've only read Empire of Silence once. I've read Howling Dark twice. I've read Demon in White twice. I've read Kingdoms of Death like 3 times. I've only read this one once, in part because I was like, kind of, I don't know, I had a weird experience with it. And I always thought that I mentally logged this section as longer because I think I like it so much. Because I remember this very fondly, and this being like this like excellent moment that happens in the middle here, and it ends in tragedy. It's just so stark, like such a great introduction to this loving and caring person comparatively to everyone else, like you said so beautifully. And then like the dramatic fall off by the end of this week is like, fuck. Well,
and it's weird it doesn't in tragedy. Not to jump ahead, and we'll get to it whenever we get there, but this entire section is a weird it feels like a speed run of Hadrian having a real human life for the first time ever. Like, he experiences basically being born. His muscles don't work. He just wakes up in a bed to mama. Mama happens to be a weird crone lady, but
true, fair enough.
And then he learns how to walk.
It's a Dark Souls game. Good point.
Yeah, and then like he goes from like his muscles not working, he's in a weird bed, he doesn't know what's going on, he can barely speak, to like relearning how to walk and function, to meeting somebody, having young love, and then like, even as we'll fast forward later, like building a home, and eventually like coming to settle into this life with this person, and then losing them to natural causes, kind of, but all truncated down to like 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. It's like, hey, Hadrian is not very relatable. Let's speed run a middle-class life.
Well, yeah, I mean, homeless, middle class. This is
right. I don't know. Middle class is getting pretty bad.
Middle class is pretty low. Yeah.
I considered myself middle class, and me and Hadrian got a lot in common right now. But yeah, it's interesting, kind of the parallels between like which doesn't make it not tragic, but whenever I read that last chapter, which we'll talk a lot about more, I didn't read it as this like sudden tragic thing. It just was like, it felt very much so like watching someone you love die and then like dealing with that, not like she got shot, so
Right. Yeah. Not a like the boys level tragedy where it's like, oh, I couldn't have done
yeah,
anything
and you're
about
just holding
this.
her hands.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yikes. I just kind of want to wrap this up with sort of the final point of the chapter, unless you have other things to say. Obviously, her getting the drugs is excellent, but Kat's, we basically get informed that they're both without family, right? Hadrian kind of officially disowns his family here, and Kat's, as though he hadn't before. But like Kat's mother is also dying of the rot in this moment, so it's both like we're alone, but alone together.
Is she dying or dead? I feel like it. I thought I read it as my mom died of the rot, but maybe she is currently dying.
I thought she was dying, like she left her while she was dying because there was nothing that could be done, and she didn't want to get sick.
Oh, okay, yeah, maybe.
Oh no, she's dead. She's dead. Sick the rot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Because that has a sadder, like, my mom died of the rot is one thing. My mom, she's dying. I got out of there
and I left her.
But I will also say one line I really fucking love in this chapter, and this is a funnier line. But everybody I know named Kat, which is more people than one person should know.
I know
named
3 cats. Yeah,
I think I know 3 or 4 cats. They're all Catherine.
One's a Kathy.
No, one of them's Katerina, but but most of them are Catherine. So I love, like, my name's Kat. Oh, is that short for Catherine? What kind of a name is Catherine? I really love that line. Right. It's just a little bright spot. She's like, no, I'm named Kat, like a kitty cat, like because I prowl on roofs. Like,
right.
So I enjoyed that. That's all.
Same with this way that she assesses like Hadrian's name of like, what kind of a name is Hadrian? Yeah. He's like,
she's got a point there.
Yeah. It's an old one.
An old one. Well,
I'm expecting some freestyling in this next chapter, which is Forsaken, which is one that we mentioned a little bit earlier. Really interesting chapter. Again, kind of a hard one to put a ton of details down on. I really love it. It's focused and fixated on religion in kind of a short way, showing off the chantry, what they do with their crowds on this sort of like begging day that we've seen, and how Hadrian and Kat have come to beg. But we also see how the chantry and the general public see the Cielsen as some sort of divine punishment for Earth in a way. And then there's also the Vate guy, of whom you had mentioned earlier, shouting some crazy shit. This is just free reign. I don't have a whole lot to say out of some like miscellaneous quotes that are great. And again, it's like 3 pages.
This is the most. I mean, I guess it's not a unique staple to fantasy, but this feels like a scene out of something fantasy,
sure,
more than sci-fi in a lot of ways. Like the naked priest guy yelling from the streets,
absolutely,
while everyone else is just trying to have their time. Man, I'm pretty sure it's in this chapter.
I would believe so. Can you give me any context?
There's just a moment, and I think it's early on, where it's like we were like huddled under archway for basically a religious place, where the words like said like peace and mercy and things like that, which makes it harder to kick us out. That's very vaguely generally the idea of it.
Crazy section. There's a lot going on. I think we're both going to quote things from the preacher. I think mine is earlier than yours. I think
maybe.
So the one that I want to say is, which almost sounds like a prayer, right? In a big way. He says, the Vate still screamed from his pulpit, naked and stinking. Our mother, the earth who was and will be again, has turned her face from us. These pale devils are her punishment for the vanity of our ways. Mark me, brothers and sisters, children of earth and sun. Mark me, for the punishment is coming. A cleansing fire that will wash away all our sins. Repent, repent, and be clean again.
Yeah, no, this guy was at Pride this year. I talked to him. He's chill.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, no. These pale devils are the Cielsen, right? Sure. Also, could be kind of based on everything Hadrian ever says. It seems like the the Palatine nobles are inherently just paler from less like sun exposure and better skin. So they're kind of pale devils in this sense too, based off of the quote I was going to talk about,
Ooh.
which is, "We have rejected nature," the Vate cried. "We bend the knee and the neck to lords made less than human." And here the naked madman clutched his own member with a gnarled hand, beard blowing in the wind atop his scaffold. That was unnecessary, but I just think it's interesting that it happened.
Good. Yeah.
The mother knows the nobles have forgotten her, have worked her from their blood. That moment, like, it calls back to so much of what has been a major theme so far in this book, which is like, and to this moment, in my mind, Hadrian is a homunculi or a homunculus, like, just is.
Sure. From a comparison standpoint.
And that's what this person's saying. Like, these the ruling class of humans have rejected nature to a point where they have worked Mother Nature out of their blood. They have forgotten her. They have moved on from being natural creations. They are not human anymore. And then Hadrian freaks out because he's like, this guy's going to get dragged off and murdered by, the Kappas. And then they don't. And he says it's because, the mad are close to the earth. But I just think no one wanted to touch the naked old man.
A little A, little B, but I love the closing of this. Like, this is a very strongly written chapter. Like, yeah, I can imagine,
it's so
like, an
tight.
editor.
Like, yeah,
right. An editor going in being like, well, that feels kind of unnecessary. And I would just be like, no, that is a perfect world building chapter. It's so energetic and frenetic in a weird way.
A no notes chapter. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I almost have like nothing more, like, outside of the quotes that we pulled. There's like almost nothing to say about it because it's just so in your face, very directly with its ideas, and it's meant to like kind of address, we've been wondering about the chantry, we've been wondering about religion, and this is not necessarily the chantry itself, but this does portray a follower. It may be the worst kind, of course, the extreme, the extremist, naked extremist, but it does give you an idea. And also there's still this charity deeply within people that follow the chantry as well, which is a whole thing, as like Kat and Hadrian experience.
Hey, I'll say that if this this street preacher, we're still yet to really learn deeply like what the public theology of the chantry is. We know like what they do, where they stand based on certain things, but it does seem like a lot of it has to do with like returning to a natural state on natural Mother Earth that is returned to us whenever we're good enough to get her back or whatever. This guy's going all natural. Yeah, it just makes sense. He says, you know what's not natural? Clothes. You know what is natural?
We made
this
those.
Dick. So like
that is
so
what he's
I
saying,
get it. He's committed to his beliefs. He's walking the walk. He's cocking the cock, and
and it's flopping,
and he's flopping the flop for sure.
Right.
And all I gotta say is I like a man who stands by his principles.
Hey, and we love that for him,
Yeah.
Anything else to say about Forsaken?
It's kind of cute that just like at this point it jumps forward a little. We don't know how long, but it's kind of cute to like see Hadrian and Kat just like in their system of begging, like they're working out their how it works. She's making more than him, but like they're both going to benefit from it. Like, I don't know. There's a level of budding romance to this chapter.
It's flirtatious,
heavily overshadowed by
Big Dip
Preacher
flopping.
Preacher McPeaches out here.
And he do be out here.
Dude, flopping in the wind.
Flopping everywhere.
I don't know a sermon that wouldn't be like a little bit more evocative if you just grab your dick halfway through, and he did that, and can't be mad at it. So, I
mean, it's not about being mad at it. It might be about like calling it out, as like inappropriate behavior.
You know what I'll say is I'm happy this scene happened with this author, because like if Joe Abercrombie put this in the scene, I would have gotten too much upsetting words to describe the phallic situation. It wouldn't be, and that's when he wriggled his members, squelching in the wind.
True. I did actually think about this just now, and I think I forgot to bring it up in the last episode. It's interesting when Hadrian gets stripped in the pod, he refers to his genitalia as his sex, as like a thing, and then here he's like cock, and it's like clearly he's kind of like. I think it shows like a relaxing member. I should say.
Yeah, it's like as he's in the mind state of where he was in that moment, he feels a lot less timid. Mm-hmm. He does mention, I think earlier than this, where like someone's like, "You talk funny." Oh, and Kat, she says, "You talk funny," and he's like, "I had not even thought about the weeks I've been here. Mm-hmm. I'm still just like, hello, my good man. Can you spare a few coins for a poor beggar like myself?" Like,
yeah, right, exactly.
Imagine coming across that on Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Coming off a little strong there, man.
But a humble beggar coming here to acquiesce your assistance.
Humble indeed. Yes, excellent. Quite.
I'm picturing like Matt Berry asking me for money on the street. Hello, my good man. It's quite expensive in New York City.
Yeah.
Could you
practice
spare a
Matt
coin?
Berry, honestly. I should figure out that accent. That's such a good one to have on deck.
Just always ready to go. I swear poverty is a bastard. Yeah, so Hadrian's going around doing that and like wondering why. He even mentions like, oh, this is why the other like street poor don't trust me. Yeah, motherfucker. Like,
it's because you weren't even close. Yeah.
You're walking in going like, hello, my fellow homeless. How are we struggling today? Is not soup on the menu again? Ah, righto.
Quite, yes.
Quite. Yes, just like the nanny used to make.
With that said,
that's
Josh,
last chapter, but
right.
There is this moment where we get to experience him experiencing life communally with another person, with Kat, and there is this budding romance, but it's also like much like her helping him in the last chapter. It's the first time we really get to experience like him just experiencing humanity in a companionship moment where it's not about expectations, political machinations, pawns on a chessboard. Just him and another person who are together because mutually beneficial, I guess, but they enjoy each other. They're helping each other. They're just kind of like getting through this life together, like humans do.
Yeah, it's adorable. It's very cute.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, with that, so you wanted to do it. With that, I think it's time for our drink segment.
It is. With that, I'm so excited to talk about them that we've totally made before this moment. All right. Well, Josh, what are you drinking this fine evening?
This is one of my favorite local beers here in San Diego, California. It's not a rare beer. It's not a hard to find beer. It's the Let's Go IPA by Fall Brewing. Fall Brewing is one of my favorite little breweries here, just because it's all like punk rock, like early punk rock, like 70s and 80s punk rock themed.
Yeah.
They've got great art. I love this little guy. That's like kind of their mascot that is on a lot of. Oh,
it just feels necessary. I've got 80 old skateboards in the room right next to me, so I just wanted to also evoke the vibe.
Incredible. Yeah. Man, it's just a good vibe. Just when skateboards had one lip and punk rock had more
Truly.
I's and O's and let's goes,
Hell yeah. A little bit more fist pumping.
Oh yeah, some oys. Can we get some oys back?
Oi. Yeah.
But yeah, I really like the Let's Go IPA by Fall Brewing. It's a local brewery here. I lived walking distance from one of their tap rooms for the first 2 years that I lived in San Diego, and then we moved,
cool.
and now I live walking distance from a different one of their tap rooms. I'm actually kind of walking distance from both tap rooms now because they're not that far apart. They're like 1 mile apart, and I'm right in the middle.
They're right there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I really like that. And then as far as cocktails go, I've made what I'm calling the Dirty Rainwater. It's kind of a play on a Sazerac, but there's no whiskey. So instead of a rye whiskey, we're working with just dry gin. and that's 1.5 ounces of gin, same amount of water. You could do shaken ice, but I just did water because we're dealing with a poor person cocktail here because Hadrian's in the streets. Then you do an ungodly amount of Angostura bitters. I said 10 shakes. I think it was closer to 20. You just keep on shaking that. Do a little absinthe spritz. Give it a twist of lemon. You got yourself a dirty rainwater.
Nice. That is an interesting twist on Sazerac. It's also like not that far off from like a number of the other like scorpion-ish like sours, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously you're not going in the sour direction, you're going in the gin, you know, direction.
I think because it's so
water.
spirit forward, it's just water, liquor, bitters. Yeah. That's what makes me think of Sazerac.
Totally, that makes sense. Yeah, you've absolutely that is like basically just spirit.
Yeah.
Come to think of it, I was like, wait, lemon zest. I was like, you didn't even add lemon juice. It's lemon zest. No.
There was the vibe of a lemon,
yeah.
The memory of a thought of lemon. Yeah.
Sure.
The LaCroix of lemon, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Essence.
Yeah. What are you drinking, Crossland?
Josh, on the front half, I had two different beers. I'll talk about both of them. One I'll talk about more. The other one I had last week. This is Fluff Stuff by Drecker. This particular blend, of which they do a lot, this is sort of one of their frequent things that they do. They're generally a marshmallow fruited sour. So it's very puffy. It's very nice. It's a 6%. Drinks really cleanly. One of the sweetest things ever. This is orange flavored. This drinks as close to the best creamsicle you've ever had in your life. This is one of my favorite things. Friends locally here call it Creamy Dreamy. They're from North Dakota, and they just recently started distributing here because we've got such like a crazy brewery scene.
Very cool.
And they're like one of the best regarded Midwestern breweries. So like, of course, the city picked it up because they're like, fuck yeah, we want them here. So that was what I had for the first part.
Creamy Dreamy. I like
Creamy
that.
Dreamy is what like my local friends call it.
We got
they
Cali
like, don't know what it's
over
called.
here, but Creamy Dreamy sounds great.
It's similar, different. And then I'm having a different kind of bird session IPA from my buddy of whom is the brewer over at Wilmington Brewing Company. So, or one of the brewers, I should say.
I'm very excited to at one point record an episode in person in your neck of the woods and try a Wilmington Brewing Company because
we've never recorded an episode in Wilmington. That's all I'm saying.
And I feel like I've heard about Wilmington Brewing Company specifically multiple times.
Well,
Sounds
I mean,
delightful.
Yeah, I mean, since we did like the D&D show, like I had a lot of Wilmington Brewing Company there. I had it when we were obviously drinking and talking through like Legend of Vox Machina, you know, way back in your first technical appearance, things like that. So, yeah.
And then we'll have to do an episode in my hometown of Fresno, California, a terrible place, but there's one really good brewery.
The cocktail that I'm having is called The Legend of the Irk Tawny, and I haven't tried it yet, so let's see if it's any good.
Irk Tawny.
Ooh, answer it is.
Damn.
Not super shocked with the ingredients. It's pretty straightforward. I don't know. I was like, again, at my parents' place, they're like, free reign on the cabinet, who cares? And I was like, oh, there's an interesting, I was going to make something very basic. I was just going to do a sour. And then I saw this interesting Amaro that they had like not touched barely at all. And I was like, huh, it was interesting. Tried a little bit.
Averna? Okay.
Yeah, Averna. So it's like a little coffee forward. Like it's got a little bit of that like bitter. It's not coffee, but it is like a coffee-ish note or adjacent. So the cocktail itself is 1 ounce of vodka, 1 ounce of vanilla vodka. Just because I tasted that and I immediately went, oh, let's brighten that up a little bit. Let's add a little bit of that like back note. 1 ounce of a Meyer lemon aperitif, of which you can only buy at this at Elizabeth Spencer itself in California. You can only go up to that's the only place you can get it. My parents bought 3 bottles and gave me 1 and they kept 2. It's amazing, but like also it's just fucking hard to get. Half ounce of Amaro Verna, an ounce of lemon juice, and an ounce of simple syrup. And it's dynamite.
It's giving lemon bar in a good way.
It is, you know, very like lemon bar, but with like coffee notes. Like there's like almost like a deeper, like I love that.
It's like having a lemon bar pastry with a little cafecito, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It reminds me, they're in Italy right now. It just feels very distinctly Italian. I mean, for many reasons, but like the lemon and the coffee, just perfect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I got to try that. I have some Averna. I don't have a lot right now, but I have Averna.
Yeah, I actually can't believe that I haven't used Averna in anything before. So this is also my first time playing with it. So
I used Averna in a couple different weird little cocktails I was making, and my roommate at the time was like, all right, I like this, but I don't think I like this Averna stuff. So he went out and tried like every other coffee liqueur that he could get. Went on a big Mr. Black's kick for a while, only to loop back around and be like, I think Averna was the right move. I think Averna's actually the best one.
I would agree with that for the most part. There's another brand called Grind that I think is excellent as like an individual thing.
Okay.
I don't talk badly about many people in my life, but when I was working in New York City, I worked in WeWork. The CEO of Mr. Black came in and was like distributing and like tasting and doing taste tests with people, which was awesome, like very on the ground. However, to me, as I was talking with him and interfacing him, he was a complete asshole. Like he
that
did
makes
not
sense,
like me,
I don't
and I was like
Mr. Black at all.
And I was like, whoa. And then I tried it and I was like, this is really interesting, because I worked at a coffee company at the time. And I was like, wow, what are you doing from like a blending treating perspective? Like I had all these questions that were coffee related. And he like basically didn't have any of those answers and was just like very off-putting about it. And I was like, well, I was just trying to interface like this was a fun question. This wasn't accusing you. And he treated it that way and was a jerk and gave everyone else a bottle, but didn't give me one.
So he was on like a diet. He was off-putting.
Yeah.
Wasn't no more pudding
off-putting for sure.
Cool.
That's
No,
me
we
too. I weighed 125 pounds.
At the brewery that I worked at for a while, we had a competition yearly for what we called Rush Day for our rush hour coffee stout. It was a coffee milk stout, and we would always have different local roasters come through and compete to see who would be the roaster that we collabed with for our coffee stout. And there was one roaster that made it to like the final round one day, and I was just like having a conversation, and like I talked to a lot of these coffee roasters, and I was just like asking about their process, and it became very clear that like they weren't really like a craft roaster at all. And I didn't say shit, but they got weird mad when I was like asking about just really basic stuff, and they did not win.
Yeah, fair. Man, it's just crazy how it's like, I'm not really trying to harass you or harangue you. I'm just interested in you being interested in this kind of stuff.
You came in here like, I'm an artisan of my product. I'm like, cool, tell me more that I don't know. And
yeah, I just want to know stuff. Like,
they're like, no, I'm a businessman. We bought this from someone else. And I'm like, oh, cool. That's not
for him. It wasn't that for him. It was me. And there are very few times where I can tell that I've been off-putting to an individual, but this man was like, that guy doesn't look like he's going to buy this. He looks broke as fuck. And I was like, well, maybe, but like, fair. I probably would recommend you if it tasted decent.
Yeah,
and
I might be broke,
like,
but I have friends with money and they like my opinions. So like,
my literal roommate was in Food and Wine that year for the best coffee in the United States. So like, what the fuck do you want?
Yeah.
Like number one cafe, number one roaster.
Damn.
Say coffee. Yeah. I don't know.
All right.
But it was pretty good. Anyway.
Yep.
I digress. That's my Mr. Black problem story.
Do you know what I have to say about that?
What?
Wrong. The next chapter we're going to be talking about is titled Wrong.
And we cut almost immediately to the action as Hadrian is being chased down the street for having stolen a purse. He ducks into a cafe, sits at a table, and pretends to look at a menu, which is in the glass, I think is what I take away. Folks run past him, behind him, until he's approached by a man we come to understand is named Crow. We find that Hadrian's been here for a couple of years now, fighting and surviving in the streets of Borsivo. What'd you make of this little chunk?
I'm gonna be so fucking mad if I don't ever get to see Crow again. You can't give me Dimitri and Saltus and Crow and never give them to me again. Crow might be my favorite character yet in this entire series.
Wow.
And I know that that's weird to say off of this one little interaction, but all of a sudden we were reading like Joshy type book. I was like, oh, hell yeah, we're here. I love Crow. I can't wait for him to like be like, yeah, you're right, Crow. I do need to make money to save Cat's life. I'm going to go into the Colosso. Train me. And then him and Crow have like a whole like gladiator situation. No, Crow's just like, you should do the Colosso. You're big and buff. And he's like, no, thank you. And he goes, okay, suit yourself. And then leaves. And then years pass. I think Crow is so sick. I can't put my finger on it. There's not a lot of description. Maybe it's because he's so vague, but we can just tell he's like this kind of like well-traveled, figures his situation out in anywhere, like man of the many worlds, scoundrel. And then I can like project anything else I want onto that because there's not too much given. I think Kross so sick.
That's one of the things that I'm finding more and more fascinating about early Ruocchio's writing is he's not into these descriptions. Like even Cat, like, do we know the color of Cat's hair? Like, do we know what her eyes?
Her teeth are
we
crooked.
know jagged teeth. You know?
Yeah. Jagged Baptist Club. That's my brother's band. But
right.
Yeah, for sure.
But we know like these small details and then we fill in the rest. And I feel like with Crow, we barely get anything out of the fact that like he's a sailor, he's a little bit of a drunk, he has like a heavy hand on the table, and it gives him a vibe and energy, a way that he occupies the space, as opposed to like a description. And it's so evocative because it also matches the way that he talks. And so you're like, chef's kiss.
It's so cool that like that Nikimo Casca didn't die.
And that he lived,
and he made it all the way to space. You know, that's a note
that I have later. Is this is the most Abercrombie character so far, right?
He's so good. Yeah. He comes in and and it's funny because in a lot of ways this is kind of a throwaway chapter to set up a future arc. And right. I mean, that might be like a harsh way to put it. But in many ways, there's not a lot that happens in this chapter. It's to like put the Colosso back in your mind as a possibility, show that he's really come into this life of crime. He's running jobs, he's getting tased, and he doesn't really care.
Yeah, and also be like, hey, you're not on the right path. You know, that's kind of like the other part of this, right?
And to like set up this alternative path and have him thinking about like where he's going, what he's doing, what he actually wants, realizing. And I think that a big part of this chapter is to set up the next chapter, which is Less Wings to Fly. It's to make Hadrian realize he yearns for the stars, right? And in like a literal way, not in like a Hollywood way. But it stands out to me so much because this is the coolest character we've gotten in this entire book. Like, and you also it's a very Aladdin moment, like we were mentioning earlier. Like, it's really cool that we come in like right there. I used this incorrectly earlier, but in media res, like he's currently in the middle of this heist or this grab and run. You know, like we jump in and he's running from the Kappas, the duelists,
prefects. Yeah.
The prefects. He's like running from the prefects. We're in the middle of him like currently of having lifted something. Somebody else stole something. He slips over the barrier, gets in onto this table. And it's just such a cool moment that shows like how slick he's gotten with it at this point. Like, yeah, he got stun gunned to the arm and it's barely working, but he still manages to like slip him, drift into this restaurant, sit down, start scrolling the table iPad. And that's a really cool moment. Like, I feel like that's a very cinematic moment.
For sure. I think that this is one of those things, you know, as I'm also thinking and I'm working through writing and editing my own stuff right now, I'm like, man, why don't I do this fucking more? You know what I mean? Like, why did you just can, like, you make the rules. Why the fuck don't you? You know,
like if this was a show, what would be the smash cut? Okay, let's do the fucking smash cut.
This is the smash cut. Why don't I do the smash cut? I gotta do all the setup. My brain is like, okay, what's it look like? Okay, who's there? Okay, what do they look like? It's like, no, it's not about that. Sometimes it's about the energy of a thing, you know?
Exactly. I would say there's something to be said for a scene where you can picture the energy, you can imagine the camera angles almost, you know, whenever it's written very cinematically like this. Like, there's some scenes where I'm like, I can't pick it, that are beautiful, and I love them. They're some of my favorite scenes in some of my favorite books. I could not imagine how you film that because it's so introspective. And there's some scenes where I'm like, that's a movie. And this is one of those scenes. But on top of that, there's some like moments where it smash cuts and you can picture the visuals of it. And then there's some, and this is like really high praise, where I feel like I can hear the score. And this is one of those. I can hear that like, like there's just something about the energy of this moment that like, as soon as it switches to it, I get the feeling, you know, like I can feel that this is a loudly scored scene until it dies down.
You feel the Guy Ritchie, you feel the Steven
We can feel the
Soderbergh.
shift, the pan to Crow. Like, there's something about it that just feels, it's so Guy Ritchie, Guy Ritchie. And really, really love it for that.
Yeah, and I love Crow again as a character. You know, again the line, "This planet's a shithole." You know, how's a man supposed to breathe? Even the whiskey's wrong. And Josh, it's an important thing to note. He does take a drink here. One of the things that I've been skipping, that I've forgotten about because PJ and I were rushing so hard and we didn't pull out some of these details as consistently as we did, is every time someone drinks, we drink as a rule. So, a cheers to our boy.
Even the whiskey's wrong.
Also, when an important character dies, obviously, wow, you kill. I mean, I guess it's water, but
yeah, it's like it's half water.
Yeah,
it's one shot of gin.
You know, mine's mostly booze, and I'm almost done as well. So, yikes! I'll say I swapped out that other beer. I did not even open it. I was like, oh god, no.
Oh man, I'm relying on beer to get me through this.
Of course,
tomorrow's payday, and you ever got that like $16 in your bank account, you know?
Oh, plenty. I understand. Yeah. Patreon.com/words and whiskey. We love you.
Buy Josh booze. He'll make cooler cocktails.
It's very true. We haven't sent the fund towards booze, but if we hit a certain threshold, we can definitely do that. At the moment, we're covering costs.
Could we add a booze button? Like, just if they pay through the booze button, we're only allowed to use it for
we
booze.
could do that through Ko-Fi. Yeah, or something. You know, if you want to sponsor a little thing. We do also do, you know, it's worth pointing out, we also do sponsored episodes. Like, we've got a general like Patreon for like people to come hang out in the Discord, get bonus things, but also we do sponsored episodes. If you want to do like, if someone wants to sponsor an episode of us covering a book that they're interested in, it's $30. We both get a copy of the book within that, and then away we go. We cover your little episode. So provided there's an important caveat there, we might read it and we might not like it, and we might ask you to pick something else, which has happened only twice out of the 12 times that we've done it. So just an important
also if you want us to sponsor your product, if it's like a little
provided you're not supporting war crimes, we're good. Yeah, it's good.
Well, I would say we'll discuss the war crimes.
That's true. I mean, this planet is a shithole and everything is wrong. So
yeah. Most war crimes are a no, but some.
Raytheon, come at me.
Yeah. Look, if you murdered that son of Gododin on that fateful day with all those people watching, we'll probably still read your book.
We'll figure out exactly what missile went into that sun to make it go. You know, like that's
for sure.
That's a part of it.
So you have some things here where obviously, like, so I didn't even really look at the notes for this chapter because I just wanted to talk about Crow.
Yeah,
looking at these notes now, I see that you're talking about Crow and how Abercrombie is, and I see like there's this little quote here, and I love it. Do you want to read it, or do you want me to read it? Who's gonna read it?
Which the from the way cocked?
Yeah.
Okay. I love so many of these quotes, and there's another one that I want to pull in here. I'm gonna do the whole thing front to back the way that I had mentally planned it. Just here, Hadrian asks Crow how to become a sailor, and he recommends against it as a hard life. He recommends instead becoming a fisherman or making something of himself in the Colosso. He also tells him, remember though, be a Myrmidon, not a gladiator. Girls don't like professional characters. And I fucking love this guy, like you mentioned.
Does he say characters? I thought he said professional killers.
Oh, killers. It is killers. I don't know how characters stuck in there. It is killers. Yeah, you're right.
They don't like professional killers. And this is a moment I do want to talk about a lot. Yeah. Because Hadrian is like, no, that's what girls do like, is professional killers. And I think that this is one of those moments where he just doesn't understand normal people. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
He knows that people go crazy for the games, and he knows that like gladiators are held in high regard, and he knows that like being hard and cold is positive in Palatine culture, but he's never like interacted with like just a human woman, you know?
not
outside
only...
of like Kat and Kira, and Kira didn't get to interact with him human to human. So like I think that he's like, no, women love WWE level buff, you know? And I'm like, no, they don't. That's for men. It's one of those moments where it's like, oh my God, you know nothing about human nature.
it's also so clear that like it's not even just that he like doesn't understand human nature. It's that he has like almost a masculine limited perspective in that way.
Yeah, very
where
much
he's like
so.
kind of
Yeah.
just tucked in, and he's like, oh well, I thought everyone liked the killing. I thought that was the part of the Colosso they enjoyed. Considering
No.
our first 20-ish chapters,
Yeah.
and
it's like he can't
him regarding
understand
Crispin.
He can't understand that they, more than the killing, they like the theater, and they also like
Mhm.
the struggle and
The drama,
like
yeah.
the drama, and like he knows it's predictable. He knows how it works from behind, but like most of these people think that every single Myrmidon has a chance technically, like, and they like that aspect, and like doesn't even come into his brain at this point.
Yeah, which is just such a good meaty bit, and also for Crow to say it, being like, just go do that, like an intoxicated uncle recommending a job path.
Yeah, my intoxicated uncle has tried to get me go into the death pits multiple times.
I've got 5 uncles, and 3 of them are pro death pits for sure.
I think I'm pro death pits at this point. Bring them in. I need $20. Bad.
Yeah. So I love the quote that you're bringing up earlier here though as well. From the way he cocked his eyebrows, I swear he knew then for me for what I was. Nobile, Palatine, scion of the peerage now fallen. But then he grinned, a gold tooth flashing, and the impression that here was a man wise as sages was shattered and obscured by all that roughness, the way an ancient bit of shattered pottery only hints at the vanished empire that crafted her.
Dude, he's so Casca. Like,
So, yeah.
He just comes in, and I know we're not talking about First Law, and you shouldn't have to read the First Law to listen to this. I'll say, if you haven't listened to the First Law trilogy, there's a character named Nicomo Casca, who is just
a scoundrel.
A scoundrel, just a bastard. But for all of his flaws, and he is just flawed, there's like a weird wisdom to it. Like, he's so much smarter than he lets on, but he has no reason to rat you out. He likes the fact that you're doing, like, this guy looks at him and he's like, you're a Palatine on the run. And instead of being like, I can make money off this guy, he's like, hell yeah, that's a story right there. You should go into the Colosso. Like, there's something where, like, I really do think he doesn't know who he is, but he knows what he is in that moment. And I like this idea that this guy's like, oh, he's definitely down to make all the money he can, but he's not going to sell out somebody doing something he thinks is interesting. Like,
yeah, not only that, but also I love the like final bit of this, which is like the roughness, the way an ancient bit of shattered pottery only hints at the vanished empire that crafted her. Like, this points out that like Hadrian is ascribing so much intelligence to his wisdom, in a way that like maybe he shouldn't, but also like in a way where like maybe there's something to the simplicity of this, or to the lack of complexity that like I'm missing. And I love that idea and like that archaeological like example, it's so fun.
I agree. And you said something right there, ascribing intelligence to his wisdom. I think that's like very important for this type of character. At the end of the day, they're not that smart, but they are wise, but not wise in the sense that it helps them at all.
Wisdom is not intelligence, and that's important for a lot of people to understand. Generally,
like, they are inherently self-sabotaging wise men. They're wise men who understand how to use that to self-serve, but then they're so self-sabotaging that it like they never like built in like empathy or like unity or development for others. But there's just like this weird thing where it's like a lot of us like to think of wisdom as being like self-actualized, which is something you can do with wisdom, but you can be like a wise piece of shit, like,
absolutely.
You can definitely get how things work at like a quintessential psychological level without ever really getting into the science of it. You just like truly understand things from a perspective that like inherently makes sense to you, that matter, and that's wisdom in a lot of ways, and still just be a fucking bastard. And Crow is that to me.
That's nailed it, man. I don't want to go too far into this, but like I think if people want a real world example, you don't need to look further than Peter Thiel. That man is a genius and like the world's biggest asshole. Simultaneously, like
truly maybe
one of the worst.
devil.
worst humans, but simultaneously one of the most intelligent. Like that's part of like Jordan Peterson, a lot of the other people within that sphere like kind of fake it. Teal actually knows, but like he knowingly knows and walks into that pit, like,
Yeah,
and that's a different problem entirely. That is wisdom.
He's also just the guy
also,
who thought he could spend billions of dollars on making himself like a pharaoh legend god king maybe one day, but that's
yeah, I mean that's I don't know way too much about Peter Thiel, but that's entirely separate.
Deep dive on Curtis Yarvin recently, who is inherently connected to Peter Thiel.
Right. Yeah,
shit gets weird and wild, and I think that is what would happen if Casca had $1 billion, or multi-billion dollars. But
yeah, if people want a little bit more insight into what I'm talking about, I just recommend that people read Conspiracy by Ryan Holiday. It's a wonderful little book about why Peter Thiel took down Gawker and how he did it, with like interviews with not only Thiel but with people around him that gave information to Thiel, and it's very interesting. I love Crow, and there's one more quote that he gives. It's very basic. It's very simple. Again, it's the wisdom versus intelligence thing. It's pretty straightforward. Most people should know this. Who you are don't mean shit. Don't mean enough anyhow. It's what you do matters. You hear? And it's simple, it's clear, it's clean, it's a reapproximation of a lot of different, quotes.
Yeah.
It's something there.
There's something about the way that Crow talks.
It gives Crow flavor. It's that pepper,
A lot of flavor. And it's very classic sci-fi, like the diction of it, right?
Right.
I do think that there's something to be said with this line, and then very shortly after it, the title of the next chapter inherently just made me think of Firefly. Like that's such a Mal Reynolds fucking quote. Right into Less Wings to Fly. That's an episode. It's not, but like that could be an episode title of Firefly.
Absolutely,
it
would be a title of Firefly episode.
It's Firefly, and I think I've mentioned Firefly once before on this
last
book.
week.
I would be absolutely. I'll
and in your intro actually.
I think that if I were to ever talk to Christopher Ruocchio and find out that he doesn't know what Firefly is and has never watched it.
I talked to him tomorrow. Did you want to ask?
I would like to find out if he ever watched Firefly. Not if he likes it.
Sure.
Just, has he watched Firefly? If he is unaware of Firefly, I will run myself over with my car.
He has, because I've read the interviews, but I'll ask.
Okay, yeah.
That's fine.
It just seems like some of these things are like so Firefly inspired to me, but also inspired by the same things that inspired Firefly. Firefly is not like the first of its kind. I just think that like it hits a certain tonality in a unique way that this is tickling in a way that no other sci-fi really has since Firefly in that specific vein for me. There's something about like the zazz of Crow. Crow's from Firefly, Hadrian's from Red Rising. Like, and it's interesting to see them interacting.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool.
And then there's Less Wings to Fly.
There is Less Wings to Fly. With that said, we start with a moment between Hadrian and Cap reflecting on his life living on Delos and in his castle. It's sweet as he explains in detail what the place was like. We even get a little bit of a reflection that they've kissed before here. This is where we sort of get like a little bit more of the romance before like the fall off. We get some action, we get the romance, we get some action, then we get the death.
Who's? What? No.
What? Oh no, mere humanity.
We're just gonna skip that one. Pretend like it didn't happen. You wanted to skip
Stand Clear. That was an accident.
You tried to skip Stand Clear. I would much rather skip Mere Humanity.
Right.
No, here I think it's less than like we get a little bit of reflection that they'd kissed. There's like a touch of a thigh, like a squeeze, an arm around her. I think that this is the moment where he reflects back to like a week ago when they did kiss, where they are fully moving into a relationship, in my opinion.
Yeah,
rather than just like a single moment
at this point. Yeah.
And maybe this is more of why just these chapters feel nice to me. He's experiencing a relationship fully I mean, as close as he can with his Palatine blood that doesn't let him get the rot.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's as close as he can to like a human interaction that is like there's no power imbalance. It's an equal setting where it's just him and somebody else who choose each other, and like it's cute. It's cute. I don't. She was 16 whenever he met her. I don't know how old she is here. We're gonna say 17.
17 and a half. She dies around 18, I think.
He was 19 whenever he got frozen, and then I'm just gonna pretend
20,
like the years.
Just to put that there. But
there was one spot I went on my re-listen where he specifically says 19.
Okay. All right. Yeah. This is one of those things that I think that is probably cleaned up in text versions now. To be clear, like this is one of those things where I don't think that Christopher's intending for this to seem like it was an inappropriate relationship anyway. Just like,
yeah,
he's older. He's also of a different sect. He's definitely a little bit older, but also to paint the importance of like, he is a child in his own maturity.
Yeah.
So like a 20-year-old, and this is part of the conversation I want to get into, a 20-year-old in quotes that is a Palatine is not the same as a 20-year-old human.
No, yeah.
In terms
and I
of
think
experiences, life or otherwise. Like it's a very different.
Like in a fantasy world or in a sci-fi world, you can take away some of like the cultural connotation of that and say like, hey, sometimes. A 20-year-old man and a 17-year-old woman, like that's not that different. And that's totally fine. But whenever he talks about the years very vaguely here. And there's like an implication, if you don't read super into it, that he's like 25 and she's 16. And that feels super weird. But then like if you really break it down and you re-listen and you like listen to how the years are working, it's much less weird than that.
Yeah, it's closer to like 22-ish and like 18, 19.
Yeah, 22 and 18. Yeah. Which is like chill. And I know that that's like cutting hairs, but it matters.
but also again that like maturity isn't the same among the different classes and types of humans, like yeah.
But all that to say,
just to draw a very shallow comparison here, in Red Rising, very early on, Reds marry and like are dating at like 13, 14, and versus like Golds are nowhere near that at like 20.
Yeah, I think EO dies at like 15 years old.
Yeah.
And they've been
spoilers
married.
For the first 30 pages, by the way. So,
oh, yeah, shit.
Yeah.
If you haven't read the first 30 pages of Red Rising at this point, that's how they go.
It's literally the impetus of the story. It's fine. You'll love it from there.
But also, Darrow like mentions so many times throughout that story how old he is. Right. And it's always shocking. It'll be like Morningstar. He's like, I'm 21 years old. Like years have passed. What the fuck is going on? It doesn't feel like
what the anyway.
You're a baby. But also here,
yeah, right.
Time is whimier here because like there's standard years, there's planetary years,
Mataro years,
Fuge, there's slipping. So like I do think that there's like a level of, are they on the same mental capacity and within the same general area? I don't know how old Kat actually is because we've already been shown here that people on this world don't have any reason to adhere to standard, like galactic standard.
Right. Yeah.
So all we have is like the closest approximation, I guess, that Hadrian can come up with in the moment. And it's like an old teenager and he's like a young adult. I think it's fine. But yeah. But the words that are said out loud, like on a first listen, like set off that like Kill Bill sound. It's like,
yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of To Catch a Predator going on in the background.
Yeah. Hadrian breaks into a warehouse to steal some fish. And a weird coral monster is like, why don't you take a seat?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, with less wings to fly.
Yeah, that said, moving into the rest of the chapter, she asks him a really big question. If you could go anywhere in the Great Big Dark, where would you go? And he responds with an incredible story, giving us the details of Simeon the Red, having met the Urktani, and sort of why he idolizes this man so much, of which we find out is a bird-like race speaking in a unique sign language. but that they still exist on old Judeca. There's this like whole thing about like he left the people to support the Irktani. They then became a part of the Empire. Judeca. Did you know any of this about Judeca, or is this like a?
So this goes in more into like the Dante's Inferno area,
Yeah,
right?
right.
I will say that like I did do a lot of studies of Abrahamic religion. Not a lot of studies of post-Abrahamic religion, which is like Dante's Inferno.
Totally.
That is,
Yeah.
that's
sort
not
of the
fucking in the
fictions that
Bible.
erupted from the Catholic Church. And,
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
So, but I'm aware of it. I know the word Judeca. I don't know a lot past that, other than like I think it's from Dante's Inferno.
Yeah, no, it
Okay.
is. To be clear, Judeca is from Dante's Inferno. It's a very clear reference that Dante is intentionally making to draw a comparison between Judas and anyone else who might be in that inner, deeper circle of hell. Not only is this the most deep circle of hell, but it is also the one that Lucifer is therein, chained in, trapped in a frozen lake. Dante doesn't say anything. If throughout the rest of this book, Dante is a shit poster of a person, and he says nothing near Lucifer at the bottom of this frozen lake. And the people that are there are very limited. Judas Iscariot is one of them. That's why it's named Judeca. And that's also why like this name kind of gets placed on this planet, I believe, is because there's also this like betrayer of the empire element with, with him. With Simeon, and then like the Irktani wear red and they give him red, and it feels very evocative in that
because they're
way.
colorblind,
So,
and I can relate to that.
Same.
Also, the Irktani are fucking cool. They're Aarakocra.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we have Aarakocra
Bird
in this.
people. Yeah,
I
that
played
wield
D&D, and you're
scimitars.
giving me Aarakocra with scimitars.
They have fucking
big
blades,
ass scimitars.
Man. Yeah.
6 foot long scimitars.
Yeah.
Give it to me. And then also, so I will say that there's a few moments in this entire section that we've read for this episode. This is one of them where there's a comment, and I'm like, if I don't get something from that later, I'm gonna fucking punch something.
I'll tell you.
He mentions the Irktani have been like conscripted into the military to fight the Cielsen. If I don't get to see some Irktani fucking Red Tails division just doing it to the Cielsen at some point, I'm gonna be really mad.
Christopher is very good at living up to promises. I'll say that.
Okay,
that's where I'll leave that.
Just because I'm afraid I'll forget, can I jump forward with one other thing that was mentioned?
Yeah.
It is the second to last chapter we read here.
Sure.
But I cannot help but notice that whenever we're talking about the rot, Christopher takes a moment to say, one person thinks maybe it's this, in a way that I was expecting a list of different theories, but only says one theory. When someone mentions they think it might be a Cielsen weapon, and then just moves on. I was like, oh, and then someone will also say they think it's like a curse from Earth, or a disease brought over by Solarians,
the extra Solarians.
But none of that. Like just, and then one person mentions it might be a weapon from the Cielsen, then moves on, and that again, my Kill Bill.
So your sirens are going up.
Yeah,
you're like, hang on.
Yeah. We can come back to this chapter, but just because I remembered, I was like, wait, that was one of the things where I was like, why'd you say
one
that?
of those future looking
Why'd you
things.
say that?
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love the reference to Judeca, obviously the Irktani. Like, this is a very interesting idea. Bird people again, and this leads into the next chapter, which we'll talk about in just a moment, obviously. But like the fact that there are all of these different species of aliens that exist out there, right? And this is just like not only is that they're aliens,
all of these
but they
xenobites, yes,
fantasy aliens. You know what I mean? Like this is
so
where he
fun.
He leaned in a fun way.
Yeah.
And that's where I love this story, because it is, I would call it sci fantasy, because it is sci-fi for sure. There's no divorcing it from that. But he blends in fantasy elements more convincingly than I think a number of authors do in the fantasy lane of
very
things.
Very well. And I mean, that brings us to this end of the end of this chapter. He's just like, man, it feels him being like, man, I wish I could meet a Xenobite, which is like the
Yeah,
word for like
right.
an intelligent alien species, I think.
Hmm.
Based on the information we have here. It feels like Frodo and Sam being like, maybe we'll meet the elves. You know, like it definitely has that fantasy feeling of like coming across a fae or something, you know, and I really enjoy that.
Well,
Just
especially
to have,
because
oh
go
yeah,
ahead.
please, no, you.
All I was going to say is especially because like Kat's part of this is like she wants to go to like Lewin and like her mother describes it like a fairy forest and like all these other things. So there is
Oh my
like this
god, I
very like
love that moment.
ephemeral element to like what she where she wants to travel. And then there's also like the Xenobites, which is more like real grounded, but is very fey. Like it's still
But
fey.
also, like, I like that weird dark. You brought up something that I didn't
Yeah.
mean to mention. Whenever Kat's talking about like the fairies lead you to these
Hmm.
crystal trees bigger than buildings, and Hadrian's there like this is like
Okay. Yeah.
a device created by the biology of this planet that leads you to flesh-eating trees that will eat you. I think
Hmm.
is generally what we're told. You know, I don't
It's
remember the exact
very
specifics, but he's like, "Oh no, that's an ecosystem designed to eat you."
to me it's very like her mental like her planet that she wants to visit feels like something out of Final Fantasy
Yeah,
by comparison to Hadrian's, which is like I want to see pure fantasy. Like she's more in the
yeah.
sci-fi like fairy fae plus realm, and he's like give me those weird worlds, give me a volcano with magma people, you know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
Like
No, he's
yeah,
like, God,
I
I
want to be the next guy.
want.
Yeah,
Hadrian wants to visit like a remote part of New Zealand, and Kat really wants to go to
absolutely.
Sunset Boulevard. And I'm like, no, you don't though. You
Even just the
know?
redwoods, she just wants to see the
Yeah.
redwoods, you
Well,
know, like
I'll say the redwoods might actually be the closest you can get to like real fairy magic. That shit's crazy.
sure,
I
okay,
grew
all
up in
right,
California. I've seen them a lot. They ain't nothing like them. you drive
fair enough.
you drive up, you look at General Sherman, you look me in the eye, and you say you don't believe in fairies. Okay.
Live oaks are pretty sick. They're no redwoods. But
Yeah, redwoods go crazy. Yosemite. Yes, yeah, Yosemite. Is one of the wildest places on Earth. I've lived 2 hours from it most of my life.
mhm.
Went a lot of times. Every time you go, you're like, "What are we gonna go look at trees?" I've seen the trees. Let me get there,
I've seen the trees. I
whoa.
speak to them.
I forgot about these trees. They are
Those
fucking crazy.
those fucking trees, buddy.
Dude,
Uh,
there's something special about them trees.
Speaking of trees, we're gonna move on to some coral trees here with the umand.
It gets real interesting here with some tree coral people.
It's not really trees. They're not trees. It was the best
Well,
I could do.
there is
Coral's
a
kind
there's
of like a tree,
a
but
very specific moment where he compares them to trees. So I think that the Umond are a metaphor for the destruction of the Great Coral Reef. And what we're moving into here is actually kind of a moment of silence for lost aquatic species. Um, the greed of humanity has broken down the coral barrier that once protected the outer lines of the general Australian oceanic area. And Adrian is representing the rediscovery of the destruction of the aquatic ecosystem that's so important to the development of Earth, as it reflects the ultimate destruction of the ozone layer, which is, in a sense, the same as the destruction of the Gododin sun by one Hadrian, Sun Eater. Um, and so I think really the importance of the story here is that where the enslavement of these creatures comes into play represents the fact that if I talk slow enough, eventually Crossland will come back I won't have to
That
come
may
up
have
with
been
any
the
more
least
ideas.
satisfactory bee of my entire life.
Did
As I
nothing
was
for you.
slowly being whispered to. It's like,
Yeah.
Jesus
It's really going
Christ,
the
no one's done
NPR
that
route,
before.
you know.
Yeah.
Found it very
Yikes.
hard to finish too, for sure.
Woo! I had to pee a lot, but it's like it's a whole thing.
Anyways, I do think what it really comes down to is we're back in the episode now, because I want everybody to hear this. It has nothing to do with what we're about to talk about. Everything to do with what we were talking about before we made this cut. I have a bucket list item: be at a wedding where someone objects.
Oh, bucket list. Yeah.
Before I die, I have to see it once. Genuinely, not as a bit. Just like, all right,
cool.
Let's talk about this.
Umand. We have to talk about the Umand. The pair go to the docks where most of the metropolis's food comes from, and there we'll have a chance to see the Umand, the colony, as it's spoken about, or the colony, depending on how you want to pronounce it, whatever. Very interesting, but beyond that, there's a couple of interesting quotes here. Do you want to take the first one, and I'll take the second one to kind of like talk about sort of aliens in general?
We're starting at the subject races.
Yeah.
Is that? So this first big quote is: the subject races of the Imperium, the primitive aliens who had been captured and downtrodden. We had found intelligent creatures on 48 worlds, some bright, some dim, others strange. 48 times we had enslaved them, for none was more advanced than the discovery of bronze. The Kavarad on Sadal sued. The Urktani of Judeca. The Ark Builders of Ozymandias.
Ozymandias. I'm so sorry. I have to interrupt you there.
Ozymandias.
Yeah.
Of Ozymandias. There were more, many more. Some protected, others extinct. Ground into the dust by the necessity of human expansion. Only the Cielsen were different. Only they were strong enough to resist.
I mean, how do you deal with that? What do you think? Where's your brain go?
There's something about it, and there's like a conversation that happens here about like, and I think this is the next quote, but that brings up how like the entirety of like the Chantry's religion and like the ethos of humanity is built around the fact that we are the first and we're the inheritors of the stars and we're supposed to be here. It implies to me that the Cielsen have been here longer by far. It's the implication I get.
It begs a question, right? Because there's like this whole thing also, about that discovery of bronze being that like next stage, which I do find interesting and just a smidge contradictory, because the Urktani wield scimitars, and I'm not assuming that they wield obsidian scimitars, unless
they're probably at the very least iron, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It just that was one of those things that struck me as like maybe a minor adjustment, or maybe like Hadrian having more of a dramatic flourish than like a realistic one. But it's not saying that that's wrong entirely.
There's also to bring this to a piece of media that it makes me think of. Have you played Mass Effect?
Mass Effect is one of the few big game franchises that I've only played Andromeda in.
What the fuck? Oh my god.
I know. I also really enjoyed Andromeda, to be clear.
I've never played Mass Effect is fine, but I've only played Andromeda.
To be clear, Andromeda was a solid game. I really enjoyed it. And a lot of people were hating on it. It was like, well, I get it. I guess if Mass Effect was this incredible revelatory thing for you. But
look,
for me,
guys,
it was like...
I've never listened to Daft Punk, but I did go to the Fortnite concert.
Right. Entirely. And I know what I said.
Well,
I do own the collection. I own the collection.
Jesus fucking Christ, Crossland. I know I haven't watched any Predator movies, and that's probably worse.
Or most of the other half of the Alien movies.
I've seen Alien and Aliens, and I feel like that's enough. But no, I'm gonna watch them all. I have to watch Alien 4. And after Alien 3, it feels a little rough. And I think most people
Mm.
say 4 is better than 3. I don't know. I don't know the
I
opinion.
don't know that that's necessarily true. It's a better movie technically. I don't think it's a better movie.
Okay. What I will say is that Mass Effect has this concept of these very ancient species of alien that come back like every millennia whenever too many creatures reach the stars and they reap them, and then we all start from scratch again. I feel like there's some aspect where like humanity's in the middle of this cycle. And the reason why all of the stars are people just starting out is because humanity wasn't advanced enough to be a part of the Cielsen's last harvest.
Mhm.
That's my guess. I don't necessarily, not a strong enough guess to put a bet on it. I'll put a fucking bet on it. I'll drink. What? Why not?
Sure.
But like, I would love to guess that the Cielsen are so much older than humanity.
Okay.
Like like this pattern has repeated.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool. Got it.
that's going
Locked
to be
in.
my big guess based on not a lot to base it on, just
No.
like the way how
No.
it's talked about. It feels like it's too aggressively arrogant to be like humans are the first, you know?
Right.
And I would like to know that humans are far from the first. In fact, this whole thing's been done and then undone multiple times.
Mm.
That's my
Okay.
guess.
Okay.
I haven't read the book because you won't let me go back.
I
past the
can't
next
let
chapter.
you. Yeah, that's the whole bit, man. That's the whole bit. Welcome to the trap that I've trapped you in.
By the way,
spider
I
web
do
that
like
you signed up for, by the way.
the way I watched all of Game of Thrones was being the one person who had read the book with my wife and her parents. And they're the type of people that don't like to be confused, so they would just pause all the time and ask me questions. The amount of joy I get from knowing and telling what they need to know or holding back with I've never been on the other side. It's rough. I'm always the guy telling other people to read books. It's hard to read books where someone else
Yeah.
knows and I don't.
Welcome to the trap, as it were.
Anyways,
That
I
said, go
fucking
ahead.
think that these little weird dudes are cool.
The
Whenever we
Lord
get
dudes
to
are
them.
super cool. I want to give one more quote here, though, that I think is kind of important, that kind of lends into the thing that you're talking about before. Hadrian fixates a bit on old humanity and the Drake equation here, as he quotes, "The ancients used to complain that the stars of heaven were too numerous to suppose that we were the only life, the only inheritors of the universe. They used to think it strange that no other races cried into the darkness, their radio waves and noise blasting across the unending dark. The truth we discovered when our long ships plied the oceans of night and planted flags on far shores was simple. We were the first. The chantry took that fact to heart, declaring loudly and often that the stars were ours, that they belonged to the children of earth. They built their religion on that essential fact as much as they did on fear of the corrupting power of technology and the pollution of the human form. We had a right to conquest, they claimed, as the ancient Spaniards had claimed when their sad ships crashed ashore."
Damn. Well, I mean, I should have waited to talk about all that shit until after this.
I mean, yeah, this is sort of like the closing thought of that to some degree,
Damn.
right? Like, I love the extra history that we get and sort of this also other layer in the chantry, right? Like, their religion to some degree is like based upon this ideal in some facet, right? Or at the very least, it's utilized.
It's setting up so much shit that I know, like, these are those moments where like, you can feel that the writing is setting something up, but you're not sure what, like, I'm very excited to get to some Cielsen. I just want a little Cielsen in my story at this point, and I know we're probably a ways away. I don't think we're going to get Cielsen in the next couple of chapters while Hadrian is swinging swords in a dust pit.
Mhm.
But man, is that the story they keep teasing me with? This like throwback to the past, though, where it's just, I mean, how many times has Manifest Destiny been done in human history? Like, enough. We keep doing it, and we keep being proven wrong. But this is, like, one culture discovers another that they deem lesser than them, and then
Mm-hmm.
decide that they should inherit that area until eventually they decide to attack Russia in a snowstorm or some shit. Like, it just keeps happening.
Right. Great comparison. Yeah.
Yeah. And all I see here is hubris that's about to cause a very spectacular downfall for this empire.
We'll see, man. We'll see.
That's all I want, is a little spectacular downfall for an empire. Maybe they pull it off. Maybe something happens with Hadrian and he makes it work out. But at this point, I'm rooting for Crow, Cat, and the Sea Elson. So, like,
fair enough.
Yeah.
Let's
and I'm rooting inherently for the Umand.
Yeah.
Right. These guys are awesome. I want to talk about them. Please, transition.
Yeah, all I was going to say is, like, let's talk a little bit more about the Umand, right? I love the intro to them, which is the first thing I noticed was the droning, which is like this tune, and he says, "Oh, they're singing." It's this whole thing.
There's something about this, like, deep tonal resonance thing, like it harkens back to the Ents of Tolkien, and, like, it's
Mm-hmm.
nice. The second I heard the humming, I was like, oh, I like these guys.
Yeah, it is very interesting, and, like, they're so cool. They're made of stone. There's the cilia of them. They do feel very Entish. I love that comparison, although they're also called a colony. So there's this idea that maybe there are multiple parts and they're singing together. I don't know.
Yeah.
What'd you make of them on the whole as an alien species goes? In fantasy.
It takes a while for, like we've talked about before, Ruocchio doesn't give us a lot of, like, very intense description. So maybe, like, halfway through the description of this, we're given the idea that they're like a single pillar with 3 legs, all equal distance from that singular pillar. So for a long time, I knew they were 3-legged, and I was trying to figure out how that works. Is it like one big center leg and then 2 side legs? Or, but this eventual description is very, I don't know, like, kind of plant-like. I assume that they just kind of stand as pillars and move relatively slowly. We know that they are shepherds of the ocean with the fish. We know that they have flesh, but there's also parts of them that are akin to coral and stone. We know that they have cilia. We know that they have trunks. We know that they communicate through, like, a communal harmonic hum. It feels hive-mindy to a certain degree. These are really cool creatures, and I think at the end of the day, my dream blunt rotation is me. Oh my god, I've said his name already. The homunculus,
Saltus, yeah.
Me, Saltus, Crow, and number 17.
It's your dream.
If just me, Saltus, Crow, and 17 could just, like, split one bottle of Lagavulin and then, like, one medium bad blunt, that would be the best night of my life, I think. It's also hard to read, and there's something with, like, Cat here where she's, like, so terrified of them, and, like, I think it's interesting to show how, like, culturally the Empire, not necessarily just the Empire, but, like, the planet, like, has built out this fear of the other to such a degree where there's just these, like, as far as we see, these peaceful fish shepherds that everyone's like, they're wrong and they're scary and I won't go over there. So they don't have to even put guards on the fish anymore because they're all afraid of the weird tree people because they're, quote, wrong, I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Wrong. Trees.
Hey, they're more human than Hadrian.
Oh, maybe. I Man, there were so many quotes that I love in this section, so I'm kind of like struck even like for what to talk about. Um, one of these is less about them. Actually, both of these are less about them. So I love the Umond and I love everything that they bring forth within the story. Uh, but I do think that they're interesting and fascinating, not only from the way that they're like mistreated, because that gives us a perspective of empire, like that gives us the idea that like, oh, these are enslaved people, which is what we kind of take from the quote that you read earlier. But it's like important to recognize that like their utility as like a species, which is a problem, versus like them being handled and integrated, which is a very different thing. Empire is empire, like very cleanly and clearly. Humanity is at the top of that pile into consideration.
Yeah. Even outside of the Empire, humanity's still doing stuff. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I that wasn't exactly what I meant, but I meant that like humanity is just considered the very top of like whatever else exists within this system, right? Like
right.
In like
except for the ones that
the
eat
casts.
them. But yeah.
It's like the Xenobites are considered fully foreign. I mean, they're Xeno, right? Like they're still described that way as opposed to being described by like traits or other things like that that might exist.
Right.
Like they are foreign by definition. So yeah. I there are a couple of quotes here. Anything else on the Imond that fascinated you that was interesting? I love the three legs. I love the way that they walk. They feel very interesting that way.
I mean, I don't know if there's anything else to really talk about them. I love the droning. I love how whenever what happens here, that their song doesn't change, but like there's like a new harmony to it, and they all seem to adjust to it and bring it in. So like it does feel like a very collectivistic. I don't know.
It makes it feel like a unique alien colony, truly, like a
exactly,
yeah. They're cool coral critters, They're neat.
Yeah, I legitimately do like the idea of creating like these creatures from the concept of coral in the same way that we've seen so many like tree people and fantasy and stuff. Because I mean, like coral is a living plant life that is just closer in texture to stone, but it's very much so like a tree, and it just makes sense that there'd be water tree people.
Especially on this planet, you know what I mean? Like because of the shallow oceans, because of like everything else that we get from a detail perspective, it makes sense like natively. And to that point, it does feel very opposite of like the elven, well, not the elven, but the Entish forests of Tolkien.
I feel like a lack of tectonic life on the planet too would lend itself to more
formations,
docile oceans. Like there'd still be tides inherently, but like
and maybe
a lot of
probably not. To be honest,
if there's moons, hard to say.
Moons don't connote tides instinctively, but that's because we don't necessarily understand all of the different things that go into like making tides and gravities.
There's a lot going on, and a lot of it is tectonics, right?
Well, it's tectonics, it's gravity, it's distance, which is gravity. But like there's so many different things that like kind of influence that. But to say that there's no tectonic activity implies that tides would be very low and only only like externally influenced.
A much more mellow ocean, a much more developable ocean that doesn't necessarily wash away life before it has its chance to develop. Like
right, especially because like that also leads to the fact that like this plot of land shouldn't exist. They dredged it basically to make it a thing, right? Or to like make it more of a thing than what it was, which is also just a reinforcement of like the Umond were probably intentionally living underwater for so long. And so also this droning would be very different if you're listening to it underwater, naturally.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Whale song, which I think they mentioned whale song here. So
I think they do. But yeah, I love this little picture. Moving on from them, I've got a couple of other notes that I love from this section. There's a couple of quotes. The songs and operas, the holographs and poems, and the epics all say that the moment of revelation is a shock, a climax, an instant and of crushing realization that alters the world. They're not wrong. Ask anyone who stood with me at Gadadin, who saw that murdered son go down in fire, and they will confirm the truth of those tales. And we are quick to overlook the quiet revelations, the moments that dawn not from the chaos of the world, but from a hollow seed in the pit of one's stomach. Guy's got sauce. Christopher has sauce. Hadrian has sauce.
Yeah.
Man, fuck.
Saucy
this is
as
like
hell.
a Tolkien quote.
That it's like a wet burrito, you know, just covered in sauce. There is
fries stuffed inside.
There's a point for me early on because I am reading this slower than I would naturally, right? For the sake of what we're doing here.
One day you won't complain about it. Just kidding.
No, yeah, it'll be good. Yeah. But where every time he mentions the fact that he murdered a son, I'm like, yeah, we know. It's like he's bragging about it. He just has to bring it up all the time.
Not to place this on the other books, but I do think he talks about it less later. I do feel like this is a symptom of like a little bit of like getting you into it, reminding you that, hey, by the way, just so you remember, I blew up a son later. Yeah, right.
That's why it's called Sun Eater.
Yeah. Do you recall the name of the story? It's I'm the son. No, my name is Hadrian Marlowe, Sun Eater, half mortal, deathless.
Yeah. No, I get that for sure.
The second quote, though, you mentioned another quote here that I really liked a lot earlier in the episode, which is sort of his relationship with humanity and kindness, and sort of that other half of humanity.
Yeah,
which
is in this chapter.
Yeah. From the one guy whom appears to be treating 17 well, right? And then it turns out, and he's like, "Oh God, it's old capitalism rearing its ugly head." Like greed. What a there's greed. That's what it is. And what like a lovely set of quotes, from that perspective of like, oh, the other half of humanity, this like gracious piece, and
that moment of hope,
fucking bonus.
Yeah,
it's a bonus. Cruelty tainted by a bonus.
Yeah,
sorry,
I think that like that moment where this Umand is like tortured for spilling fish.
Yeah.
And this guy's literally just going to kill it. And then the other one interrupts him. And all of a sudden, like, Hadrian sees that hopeful moment of humanity, only to be like, hey, if we kill this guy, we're not going to get a bonus. Devastating and relatable.
Absolutely. Very relatable. Yeah. Cool. One other quote here that I have for the section. The gears of empire grind their human shaft to powder, and it is only the rarest creatures who endure, who grow, who rise. We sing songs, spin tales of Sir Antony Damaroche, born of Serf himself, or of Lucas Skye, stories I shared with Cat by night 100 times. We like to imagine it as an easy rise to stand, to be a hero. It is not. This was not my moment. I was not a hero. Am not, or was not then.
I mean, part of me is like, bro, you're making excuses. Go save the little alien. But also at the same time, like, he would have just gotten his own ass kicked or killed, So there's...
I love that this is where you're going with this, of which you're not wrong. And I think that is the correct take from this section, from this quote. But the other thing to note in the quote is this guy, Lucas Skye, which is definitely a call out to Luke
Skywalker. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
As like a hero against an empire, right?
No, You're so right.
Yeah.
You're so right. That's Luke Skywalker.
Absolutely a call out, as we're talking about like heroes and making the right choice and standing. And Hadrian in this moment, knowing what he knows, is comparing himself to Lucas Skywalker, saying like, well, I'm not a hero, like that's not me. So
yeah, no, for sure. He's
right.
Probably more like Darth Plagueis at this point, who went so far into the dark side that he beat death,
Maybe. Yeah. Right. Could be. Plagueis, the wise. Have you heard the tale?
It's not one the Jedi would have told you.
It's not one the Jedi would have told you. That said, it's also a great quote outside of that.
Yeah, it's a good quote. there's like so much, I don't know, emotive tension here where I'm Hadrian in this moment reading it, and I want to rush in there, but also I know all I've seen Hadrian do is get the shit kicked out of him. Besides one fight with his brother, he's not good at multiple opponents.
Not at this point. No, he's more of a duelist. He's a specialist in dueling, but he did manage those two people pretty decently when he broke the one's arm, but
then like one more person showed up. He's like, I gotta go.
Like, oh, fuck. Yeah.
And like we're looking at like armed guards, and there's two of them, and they probably have alarms, and it like, bro is also not financially or healthily ready to start an uprising to free the Umand right now. So he'd probably just get them killed in that situation.
Absolutely. In addition, like, how could he communicate with them so that they would know what's going on? Do they like perceive things the way that we do? Yeah, right. They don't
like that, probably.
Right.
But yeah. No, yeah, 100%. He can't communicate with these people. He's outnumbered. He's not healthy. He's not armed, but it also sucks to just watch him sit there and do nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. So the men depart. Hadrian quickly runs up, grabs some fishes, and takes off, basically in the place of Cat, steals the fish that they were there for, to feed them for a week or two.
There's a little line in there that I like, where it's like, this fish will feed us for a few days, and the orphans Cat takes care of whenever there's like not enough bread, or I don't remember the exact thing, but there's a mention in there that like Cat likes to feed other little street kids.
She takes care of others.
Yeah. I like Cat. We don't get a lot of insight into her, but she just actually gives a shit about taking care of other people, and I like that. Which
is just the greatest level of humanity that we could wish from any good character.
He was looking for that other face of humanity,
right?
In this chapter, and he's been with it for all these years.
Yeah, and then we face mere humanity as a concept.
Speaking of humanity,
yeah. So we head back to Siddhartha, or Siddhartha. Then as we like talk about the gray rot and how it's really like taken hold in a mesh, and sort of relating that to the immediate moment of the man sitting on the hill with under the tree with next to no one having immunity, he reflects, have you ever stopped to think about what it would be like to sit in the belly of an epidemic untouched by it? I felt like a ghost. As it becomes clear that Cat is sick. They've been together for right around 2 standard years now, as we come to understand it, but now she is not long for this world. There's a lot of very sad writing in here that I'm not going to cite more immediately. That's very emotive as to Hadrian's response, which is, I think, very important and humanizing. I've got a lot of like different plot things to talk about, but like, how'd you feel about this?
Yeah. Man, this chapter is a weird thing because it's rough. It's dark. It's him losing this only person that we've seen show him like true unabashed humanity. It's his first real equal love. And it's just him watching that wither away with something that he can't be a part of or stop, But there's also like within all that, and that's why I kind of talk about how I don't view Cat as like a super tragic character, even with this tragic ending. This chapter speaks of like joyous moments weeks before, almost more than it speaks of her actual death. Like the first time I read it, I'm like, oh, she's dying in this house they're squatting in, because he talks about this house that they're squatting in almost more than he talks about like the sewer opening that she's dying in, the storm drain, where it takes place. And so there's this interesting thing where he's like bouncing back and forth from a happy time just recently where they got to live like real people together for a while, and it's incredibly sad but like a little beautiful.
Yeah. It is very sad to kind of like live in her in those moments with her and with him, especially because like he's experienced loss. We've talked so much about grave sites, right, with Hadrian, over the course of the story. He's mentioned his uncle dying so often. He's mentioned his grandmother over the course of the last couple of weeks. He's mentioned all these other losses, and he's sort of distant. He sees the ritual more or less in a lot of them, and like kind of
He sees
understands
the removal of the organs, the individual burnings and lanterns. She sees the mass body pits.
Yeah, right.
You know, and
And,
I think
that's
really telling.
that's humanity, is the mass body pits.
Yeah.
Not this upper cruft that he's experienced one way or another. Like, that's not what she's going to live, and not what she deserves more in Hadrian's eyes in so many ways. And that's sort of like an unfortunate reality of what he's sort of juggling in these moments.
Also, as someone who has, again, really no idea where this is headed, other than that this dude's gonna fight in a gladiator pit. I've been saying
and
it.
gonna
blow
up a sun. Yeah.
He's gonna blow up a sun, and there's gonna be some big white aliens at some point. I do know that he is very, very old by the time he's writing this, beyond just what nobile blood will give you.
Much older than. So, just to give you a top end there, he says his grandma died at like just shy of 800 years old,
and he's cracking thousands. You know,
thousands. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's working with something outside of just some blood science here.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me, much like I mentioned, where he's like, oh, as distant as planet being decimated, or slave having his skull crushed in the Colosso. I had never experienced poverty, but now I'm experiencing poverty. This is one of those things where he's like, it's wild to just watch people pass you by and die in an epidemic that can't touch you. This also feels like a truncated kind of like a taster, like an Applebee's sampler platter for what his life is gonna be. You know, just it's this moment where the people around him are dying, but it doesn't affect him, and he's gonna experience that to a much greater degree later. It's interesting that we're kind of getting these shortened, more digestible human versions of what we'll experience more of later, in my guesstimation.
You know, to relate it to something that we talked about way at the beginning here, even within Devil's Cut, to give it a little bit of Critical Role sauce, or like D&D if you're familiar, when you hit level 20 as a druid, you're immortal. You just are. You live forever.
Yeah.
You can die if your health points hit 0 for a number of other reasons.
Stops touching you.
But age stops. And like Hadrian kind of has that vibe that age has stopped him, not that death has stopped him. And that's a very like different beast as you like begin to watch people pass by you one way or another. And that's like a really fun, interesting thing, and does like lend a little bit of magic to the sci-fi in an interesting way.
Of course, yeah.
And it does make each of these things like mean so much, but also how could it mean so much to someone who lives so long is like the dichotomy, you know?
And there's a part of me, like, because I have no clue how that happens, right? I have no fucking
worldly idea. Yeah.
No even beginning of a theory as to why this guy is thousands of years old, writing at the end of his life. I know he blows up a sun at some point. I know he does some genocide, some regicide. I know that he loved Cat in his own way in this time. And I know that this is a death scene. I mean, that's what this chapter is. It's Cat's passing as he lives on, because the death that touches Cat doesn't touch him, as is his fate for the future. And yet with that tear, with that cry, I think it's written so interestingly. Like, I feel like this is, and maybe it's Cat comforting him. Like, I'm sure she's afraid for it, but she asks to be told a story, and then she passes so peacefully for the horrific nature of her death. Like, it's written with such dignity, and I don't know how much. I mean, he even states in this moment, like, I considered not putting this in the story, but I think it's important.
Right.
And like, do you add dignity to Cat's death? Was it that peaceful? I don't know, because it's written very, very pure, very peaceful, very romantic. Not very, I mean, sad, but not very like ruinifically sad. You know? So
yeah, I I definitely agree with you. One of the things that I really love about this is how this kind of end goes down, right? Like Hadrian tries to treat her well with soup. She asks one last time for a story. Hadrian tells the story of Karn Sagara, and he does so in such a way, and we'll talk about the story more specifically here in a moment, but the way that he delivers it, he does it, and we get so many details. We hear it directly in dialogue, and then he begins to paraphrase, and then like he kind of wanders down that path, and he's like, was I meandering and talking for 10 minutes? Was I babbling for some of that time? I can't remember. I just remember being so excited to talk to her about these kind of things, like he always had been. And then he just kind of gets lost in it. And then she dies. Her hand goes limp in the middle of the conversation, right? We'll talk about Karn and those details in a moment here, but like,
yeah.
Wow.
God, and with all of that, just reminiscing that like period of time they had together, squatting in some house they found. Man, it is emotionally effective. I'll tell you that.
It's crazy. We're in the middle of the book and we get this, and that quote that he gives to like basically close out the chapter. And we'll hop back to Karn Sagara in a second here, but funny thing about endings: until the sun's burned down and all is cold, nothing is ended. The players only change. Fuck you, Christopher.
Well, he keeps changing the fucking characters of this book, so that makes a lot of sense. Man. Within that Karn Sagara story, though.
Yes. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Exile from the City of Poets, like a very interesting old guy.
I love the quote,
by the extra Solarians.
Yeah, I love this quote of like, what was it? Like his parents were like the son of great poets, and like
as a son being trained to be a poet, he was not. He was a warrior.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact wording, but it's so nice.
It's paraphrased.
It's like, well, your parents are good at stuff, and then you're just not. So instead, he's like, I'm gonna be a pirate,
be a warrior, and they needed more warriors. I love his quote that he says right after that, which is, "Those who will not live by the sword will die by one," which is such a simple, like, it's evocative. It's very classic. It's a repeat quote. Yeah.
Even in there, though, I'm going to find this. I'm going to find it.
Find it. Find it.
Oh, I'm going to find it.
Find it.
Can we just go back and talk about Kross some more?
That would be more emotionally wholesome, for sure.
Man, I am not good at
Kindle yet. Yeah. It's very specific on words. So if you know a word or two, it's better to use a word or two in sequence than it is to like try to Google search use it.
Okay, yeah. So whenever those those who will not live by the sword will die by one, Karn insisted. For so the poems said. But the poets did not believe their own words, believing stories to be dead trifles under their command. I think that's crazy. That's a good line.
Such a good line.
For the poets did not believe their own words. They believed the words to be under their own command. Like, I'm not going to dive too far into that. I just want to say I like that,
It's so good. And this is, again, just to talk about like ourselves as writers, right? Like, neither of us are trying to write in this way, in this style. But by God, am I fucking jealous of like those kind of things, like innately, like, oh, just rip one of those out, like no big deal. No big fucking deal. Guy did this at fucking when he got the deal, he was 18 years old for the first book. This book published, I think, at 26 or 27.
Crazy.
This fucking guy. Talking to him tomorrow about it, but
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Tell him I said, the fuck, dude?
Well, when I say tomorrow, I mean Saturday for the record.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah. What the hell? So excited. Just incredible stuff. So Kat doesn't make through the whole story. passes away.
The Murrican AI show up in the story.
Mercani, yeah, within the spectrum of the story, because they had been put down by people, and the extra Solarians continued to exist, and they were the ones of who.
And I think that's like where she starts to kind of fade from the story.
Yeah. And he made himself the king of that dark, frozen world, and that is how he became the king with 10,000 eyes.
And like somewhere in the middle of it, Cat's fingers went slack. Then steadily colder.
No, and cold, and I've read so many like slow deaths. Like there are a couple that I can think of that I don't want to talk about over the course of series that we've read. But this is painful. This is sad. It's tragic. And this is where I was going to leave you.
And then he says,
"Hang on, I fucked up."
Was there more to talk about before we get to
I got one more like action-packed chapter if you wanted to do the action-packed chapter. But
I mean, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes.
I was saying within this
it's
chapter.
Crazy that you were like, hey, just stop here. Just be sad actually, for a week.
My heart said end here because I think that it's a deep, bitter ending.
God,
but then when I like reread like the intro outros of different sections, I was like, nah, Stand Clear should be in this half versus the other half. So here we are. I give you a little bit of joy to look forward to after the absolute depression that is Year Humanity. So we started Stand Clear, which is a short chapter. We get a hard, fast cut to action, very similar to our other Steven Soderbergh, Guy Ritchie cuts that we talked about, as we see a robbery being foiled in progress, as two of Rel's minions are stunned as Hadrian holds onto a small fortune that he helped them lift. The prefects take in those they catch as their drones continue to issue a Stand Clear alert, which is something that feels straight out of RoboCop or Blade Runner.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Like very
Stop
80s
resisting.
Yeah.
Very much so. I mean, we just jump in. There's a heist happening. He's hiding up higher than everybody else with all the goods. And then people are like, hey, stand down. And they're like, hey, no. And like that's this whole chapter.
We're going to put you in the Colosso. And they're like, oh, we don't want the Colosso. We'd rather fucking die, which is a crazy
I love them
note.
being like, hey, we're gonna put you in the part where we do open brain surgery to make you not criminals anymore. We're going to lobotomize you. And they're like, no, I'd rather die. And they're like, okay, then we'll put you in the Colosso. And they're like, no, actually,
you have
please
to
lobotomize me.
Yeah.
This chapter you told me to read with a couple hours till recording.
Like 14 hours ago at this point. But yeah.
Well,
right.
Yeah, while I was at work, for sure.
Yeah.
So, definitely. I only have one read on this chapter. What I will say is it's very cinematic in the same way that Kross chapter is.
Right. For sure.
And like you mentioned, we're back in the Guy Ritchie of it all. Other than that, I just like that I got to read this chapter this week because
it sets us up for the Colosso.
We're not there yet, but I'm fucking right, and it feels good to be right sometimes.
Here's the reality. I am going to drink for the bet next week at the beginning of the week when it actually happens. I mean,
I saw the name of the next chapter.
Yeah.
So.
To make a Myrmidon. So like, no doubt,
becoming a mermaid for sure.
I'll be drinking. Don't doubt that. But for this week, I'm clear of it. So
all right, yeah.
We'll do that on Tuesday as we're recording these.
But within this chapter, I do think it's interesting. There's some level of humanity shown to a degree. Like one of these criminals gets stunned and is drowning in a puddle. They could just let them drown, but one person decides to roll them over, pull them out of it.
It shows the fascism too of like the government being like they were shouting for like roll him over so he doesn't fucking die. They're like no, and then someone else showed up to roll him over.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like it definitely pushes us, like you said, into a RoboCop situation. Like we're living in this like very kind of introspective, sad boy homeless story, and then all of a sudden we're in like a grab and smash fascist far future sci-fi like action film. It's fun. It's cool.
Yeah. And here we are.
What do you think about this chapter?
I love this chapter. I think that it's such like I use the comparison, and I used it, I should say, a lot more in comparison to Pierce Brown and Joe Abercrombie. I've used the Guy Ritchie comparison. I'm trying to bring more into focus with Christopher Ruocchio, Steven Soderbergh as a director, because I do think that Soderbergh has a more meticulous hand. And in that same way, I think that Ruocchio has that same meticulous hand, being like very intentional about the scenes. And so you might see the scene play out, and then you'd see the distant quadrant cut that's from the upper shoulder of Hadrian sitting on a roof, like looking down, being like, well, no one's selling me out. That's interesting and weird. And like, I love them for that. So I'm going to honor their memory by going to the Colosso and stealing all the money.
So sorry, which director did you say for
Steven Soderbergh?
Yeah,
like
Soderbergh.
Ocean's 11.
Okay.
You know, like
So we're Soderbergh for Sun
Ruocchio.
Eater.
Yeah.
Ritchie for Red Rising, and then
Brown and Abercrombie.
Guillermo del Toro for Abercrombie, actually, for me.
Disagree.
I just every time I read Abercrombie, I get that it reads very like fast, snappy, like Edgar Wright or Ritchie, but all I want is just like fucked up, weird, like psychedelically evil visuals.
Well, and that's why James Cameron is going to do The Devil so well in a way that I don't think Guy Ritchie could by comparison. But we'll fucking see. We'll
honestly
see,
what I really want is oh my god, how did I forget his name? He's not good at movies necessarily, but he's got the sauce. I would kill for Abercrombie with the guy who did Phantom of the Opera and Batman Forever. What's his name?
Oh, Schumacher?
Joel Schumacher? I would kill for a Schumacher Abercrombie.
That's interesting.
I just want hyper stylized Abercrombie.
And with that, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, you're right.
No,
well, it's interesting that we get Kross' voice back here. You can go to the Colosso.
Get a little bit of in his head. Yeah,
they got no shortage of need over in the Colosso, and all I can hope of.
Why hadn't he done it sooner?
That old Sailor Crow.
Yeah,
I just hope we get to see Crow again, and I know it's probably a long shot, but boy howdy, would I like to see Crow again.
Totally fair. All right. Well, Josh, with that leaves us with next week. Next week, we're reading about 9 chapters, actually precisely 9 chapters, to make a Myrmidon through Speak Like a Child. A very fun little set of chapters that we're going to have a great time reading. I'm so excited. That's going to mark our halfway point, by the way, in the book at this.
Really?
Which is, Josh, from you and I recording's perspective, is the fastest that we've done so many episodes in this show's history.
Wild.
Because PJ and I generally were like live on a week-by-week recording schedule, but we're a little bit ahead. By a little bit, I mean we're trying to compensate for the holidays and Leslie's birthday and a number of other things.
My wife turns 30. We got some stuff going on.
Correct. I was supposed to be there, but I have to attend to health issues elsewhere.
I don't even know if I'm going to be there at this point.
Fair.
If any of us are going to be there. What I will say is I did, yes, I was 25 and she was 16 when I met my wife, but I was 25 by Earth standard, and I was in a fugue state for a while, and I did do some slipping. So
God,
really,
you fucking got me. I was like, that's not true. You turned 31 2 years ago.
No, I was born in 94. She was born in 95. We're like just under 2 years apart. But
right, but
it's
you're
fine
you're like
because
a new 94,
if you consider Earth standard and then like how a mesh works. And then also, it's fine. And she has street smarts, so like she's more mature.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sucks that my wife's gonna die from the rot, but it's fine.
I can't believe that you are one of those genetic pures. That said, thank you.
I'm a homunculus with big hairy knuckles, and you know it.
Very true. Thank you for listening to this week's podcast. You can find us on our social media at Words of Whiskey Pod on Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads. If you'd like to reach out to us more directly, feel free to shoot us an email at wordsandwhiskeyshow@gmail.com.
I also think that if you reach out enough on Threads asking for PJ to come back, you can get rid of me if you guys want.
I don't think so.
Just try
You'd
really
have to pay several $1,000.
Several thousand Threads posts. I think.
Well, I mean, maybe. Yeah, that might manage it. You maybe could.
I love y'all. I hope
Run
I get
that
to
fan
stay,
campaign,
but,
I guess. Yeah.
Get it going. Get it.
Yeah, right.
Hashtag bring PJ back. That's
No, Josh, we're happy to have you.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm sorry.
You're the straight line of text next, though. You're the normal one because I read the bold one this time.
Oh, man.
Oh, no.
Let me find this. Oh, man. All right. So
beyond that.
Here we go. Reading. Beyond that, if you'd like to support what we do here, check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/wordsandwhiskey. We've got all sorts of bonus content raring to go over there.
None of this is meant to be read verbatim. It's all fucking parsed. Just like all my notes are, to be clear. Love it.
Anybody like that?
Yeah, everybody disliked that. That said, also leave us a review on your preferred platform of choice. Of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, we're very appreciative of you for converting. Please click that bell, slam that button, drop your elbow on your 5-star rating. If you don't drop that elbow on that 5-star rating, I'm gonna be pretty fucking pissed. I'm not gonna lie. I will probably feed you to the Amont.
With that, dear listener, there are endings, and this is one.
Excellent. We'll see you all later. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.